I also invite the panelists on the stage. Shri Sanjay Kumar, Additional Secretary, Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, Director General, DMEO, Development Monitoring and Evaluation Office, Niti Aayog. Shri Sanjay Kumar ji, I invite Professor Nishit Srivastav, Department of Mathematics and Statistics, IIT Kanpur. I also invite Srimati Rukmani Sihag ji, DM, Hanuman Nagar, and a request to Dr. Asha Thomas, Additional Chief Secretary, PNARD, from Kerala. Please be seated, ma'am. And we have Shri V. Punuraj, Secretary, DPAR. He would be joining with us online. Thank you, everyone. Shri Sanjay Kumarji, DG, DMEO, Niti Aayog, will be throwing light on the project Street Vendor Atmanirbhar Nidhi. We will know about the project Public Grievances Using AI by IIT Kanpur Professor Nishit Srivastav, Department of Mathematics and Statistics, IIT Kanpur. It would be very interesting to know about the Gang Canal Regulation Computerization Project, Sri Ganganagar, Rajasthan, by Srimati Rukmani Riyar Sihag, DM, Hanuman Nagar. And we have online service delivery for data-driven governance project by Dr. Asha Thomas, Additional Chief Secretary, Kerala. And the Kutumba project, Entitlement Management System, Government of Karnataka, Shri V. Ponuraj, Secretary, DPAR, would be joining online. I request the chairperson to take over the mic and proceed with the session. Thank you so much, sir. Can we have hand mics, please?
Good afternoon. I see that few chairs are still vacant because the sumptuous lunch being provided by Government of Maharashtra, people are still enjoying it, but for the interest and sake of time, we are starting the session. In the previous session, Mr. Tripathi made an observation that a hungry mind could be an angry mind also. But now, I think all of us are satiated. But now we have to take care that we don't fall asleep. Okay. So, we will keep the discussions interesting and lively. I'll take up from the last session. One of the questions was asked by somebody from this side about technology and legislation. Who had asked that question? Is that officer back? Okay, but I will try to attempt this answer. I think he is coming. I was taking up your question which you asked in last session. So can you introduce yourself? Okay, thank you. Now the question was whether technology first or legislation first?
It was some other officer who asked.
No, I think you also.
No. He asked, there was another officer who said the question that you were asking.
Okay. Right. So my answer to this is that it's an endless answer to this question is endless, and you will never be able to solve it. So don't attempt solving this question. You know, in exams, we always select this question, delete it. So this is a question, don't try to solve it. Otherwise, you will end up nowhere. That's a question generally answered by the academics who will sit in some university and write papers on that. That's not for the administrators. For administrators, the first thing which we are supposed to do is the action. Take action. Initiate something. Sir, I was trying to attempt the last answer to the question which was asked just before the lunch session, that whether it's a technology or legislation which should come first. I'm saying that this is a difficult question, and in exams we leave some of the questions, so don't attempt this question, because there is no right answer to this. You have to start doing something. If technology is there, you have something before you start it. And when you will start it, you will find that you need to make some changes. Maybe legislation, maybe process re-engineering, do that. Sometimes we issue notification, legal notification, but there is nothing on the ground to implement that. So both these things you have to balance, and the first priority is start something, do something. Don't keep doing research. In government we are generally, they say that paralysis by analysis. So we keep analyzing a lot of things, and for public they don't wait for that. So do whatever you want to do, see what is feasible in the given circumstances, in the given time, and start it. So that's my answer to the last question. Coming back to this session, I would like to share my experience of last 6 months, that I got the opportunity of being part of the jury of selection of the National E-Governance Awards by DARPG and Digital India Awards by Ministry of Information and Technology. I was amazed to see that a lot of activities are going on in the country. You see different departments of the state government, different departments of the central government, at the level of the districts. Outstanding and amazing work is going on. And I am fortunate that this opportunity is available only people who are in administrative reforms department, because they are able to see different ministries, different departments. Others may not be able to interact with each other. So it was with this thing that DRPG organizes such conferences, so that these practices which are going on in different states by different departments, they can be shared with each other. You can learn from each other. We have selected some of the best initiatives in the country, and they have profound implication for the governance. If you see this conference, it's written here, I think, e-governance. E is one letter, but governance is the major part of this. So E part is a instrument for solving the governance issues. How do you change the system so that it becomes a citizen-centric governance? And that's what the whole focus was of the Chief Minister in the morning session. So how do we use technology for improve the governance? So that's the key thing of all these presentations and all these initiatives. They have made profound change at the ground level, and they have implications. Like, I'll just tell you about the 3 previous presentations, because I was part of listening to all these things when their selection was made. Like, I'll say Mind Mitra. Our Secretary ARUP is sitting here. You might have seen that mining is such a complex issue throughout the country. Take any state. Without speaking too much, all of you understand how complicated it is. But it has made tremendous change. Like, I'll just mention one thing which was told in the previous session. that whether the lorry which is carrying a particular mineral is which kind of mineral it is taking, or whether it is overloaded. You know, it's totally seamless and automatic system. You have placed barriers, unmanned barriers, cameras are there on the top, and from the camera you can see whether it is full or it's whether overloaded or it's optimal, and which material is there. And if it is violating something, automatically challan is generated. Now, see what is going on. The practices, malpractices which were going on there, now have completely stopped. A systemic change is coming up. Otherwise, this would not have been possible. Similarly, take Trinetra of Gujarat. Now, people will actually become honest. You know, when you know that you will be caught somewhere. If you commit some crime here, your vehicle or your movement can be tracked. So, if you know that you will be caught, definitely, you will stop doing crime. Otherwise, most of the criminals think that you do something and you will not be caught. So, this is a governance change, administrative change, and reforms. So, some of these changes are taking place in the system which are making complete change in the governance. So that's how we are bringing all the good initiatives here, and I'll request you that be interactive. What is being presented here is just a snapshot. We may not be able to do full justification because these projects are very, very complex projects which have been implemented at the ground level. So you can interact with the officers, you can learn more, you can request them to visit your place, you can ask them to make presentations, and we in DARPG can facilitate that. Another important thing about these initiatives which have been implemented by the governments, that you don't have to worry too much about the procurement part. Some of you were asking in the morning, how do you have standards and how do you sign contracts and all that. Most of these projects have been implemented by the state governments. Many of them have been implemented by NIC, so you can straight away pick up and replicate in your state or your department. We can facilitate that. So you have an opportunity to implement these projects in your states, in your departments, and that's why these officers are here and you can interact with them. We'll start the session without too much ado. I think we'll take 10 to 15 minutes for each presentation, and then later on we can have some question and answer session. So maybe I'll request Mr. Sanjay Kumar, he can start, and I'll not give the briefing about the project, let him give the presentation. Thank you. You can take mic also, you can speak.
A very good afternoon to such a distinguished audience. Post lunch, it is the first session, so I'll try to make it interesting, otherwise it's a very difficult task to talk just after lunch. Before talking about this initiative, what we did through e-governance and PM Swanidhi, just a couple of points in the background how the street vending system operates in this country. This happens to be the most favored occupation for all the migrants who land up in the cities from rural areas. And as far as we know, as per the estimates, the number of people who are in migration as of now in the country is around 8 crores. And in this scenario, street vendors, when they land up in the city, the state, the way it interacts with them, that's really pathetic, we all know. they are micro entrepreneurs. They don't want anything from the system as such. They are employed. Only thing they are looking for a sense of dignity and not to disturb them in their business. We have a Street Vendor Act which was passed by Parliament in 2014. Prior to this scheme, the implementation was, of course, we had certain success stories and bright spots, but implementation was not what the state had expected to. We had hardly 4 lakh street vendors registered across the country in 4,800 urban local bodies. And when COVID struck, these poor guys their business space is the street. They could not venture in the street because of the lockdown. And really, we were getting the news from all the vendors associations that we have to do something. So this entire scheme started with a small idea of giving them a working capital loan of 10,000. 10,000 rupees appears to very small because when we started writing the scheme guidelines, so we had a lot of, in our colleagues itself, general impression was that the scheme is not going to work and these guys are not going to repay. But before I go to the main part of the presentation, the repayment percentage in scheme is plus 90% in the last 2 years since the time scheme has started. Can we go to the second slide, please? We had one national urban livelihood mission at the Government of India level, and a lot of state government schemes were there which provide credit to informal sector. But whatever data we could gather, till 2020, the number of street vendors who had access to formal loan. When I say formal loan, I am not taking into account the microfinance institutions because that data was not available with us. But formal loan through the banking channels was hardly just little over 2,000 in number across the country. So this scheme, the first objective was to let the formal banking system interact with them, understand them, and see how they can be made credit worthy. To impart a sense of identity, because as per the Street Vendor Act, every city has to conduct a survey and they have to provide them, every vendor has to be provided a vendor identity card and certificate of vending. Certificate of vending is a legal document which gives a lot of business protection to them. Okay. Third objective was to onboard them onto e-commerce platforms. Around 10,000 street food vendors have so far been onboarded on Swiggy and Zomato, and I'll be giving the details. And when the scheme started, it was only 10,000 rupees. Later, given its performance, the kind of recognition it got, the response it got from the street vendors, now it has become a scheme of assured source of credit where first loan is 10,000. Once he repays, he gets 20,000 rupees. And after that third cycle, he gets 50,000 rupees loan. And not only that, street vendors now have been designated as retail trader by the Ministry of Micro and Small Medium Enterprises. They are part of priority sector lending. So now the street vendors have got an assured source of credit where they can really plan their business well. Of course, these are the smaller details that there is interest subsidy to encourage timely repayment. And digital transaction was one of the important components, because if you look at the entire digital ecosystem of this country, whatever the number of digital transactions are conducted in the country, around 60% is conducted in the 6 big metros. The rest of India does only 40% of digital transactions. Why I am telling this? Because street vendors are there in all the 4,900 urban local bodies. So this, one of the important objectives of this scheme is that put them onto digital platform, and technically they are acting as the harbingers of digital transaction in Mufsil town. And of course, the last part was added later where entire family's socio-economic profiling has been done, and they are given access to Government of India's welfare schemes. The details we will be given. The 8 schemes are there. So that detail I'll be giving later. Next. Can we go to the next? Yeah. These are the partners. When I say partners, every partner is electronically connected through the portal of PM Swanidhi. Street vendors, their families, states or union territories, lending institutions. We have around 400 plus lending institutions which are part of this scheme. Digital payment aggregators, not only government, even the private digital payment aggregators are connected to this PM Swanidhi portal. There are 6, and this is a real example of convergence where schemes of 6 central ministries are offered through one mobile app or one portal. SIDBI is our valued implementation partner because the scheme wouldn't have seen the light of day had we not got access to Udyami Mitra portal of SIDBI, which was a ready-made portal available. We just had to customize, and the scheme was announced on 22nd May 2020, and we were given only 40 days to make it operational. From 2nd of July, we were collecting online loan applications. So within these 40 days, it was happened only because of Udyami Mitra portal, where ready-made portal was available. NPCI, Indian Bank is maintaining our PASA portal of Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, because I am not in ministry, so I need to clarify that. 2 months before I have shifted to DMU Niti Aayog. Can we go to next? Once I talk about the loan application process, we need to have a central database of the street vendors. As I mentioned, we had only 4 lakh street vendors across the country formally registered. System was that urban local body had to conduct survey. But I want to inform this audience in the gathering that out of the 6 metro cities, only Chennai and Hyderabad have done some kind of survey and have given some kind of recognition. If you talk about Delhi, Mumbai, Kolkata, for that matter, all these 4 cities, survey has not been completed, and street vendors are really operating in a system which was prior to 2014. The biggest challenge is how to overcome that, because to give loan, we need to have access to every street vendor. So here a letter of recommendation system was introduced, which makes it demand-based registration, where street vendor can go through a simple online application process of 2 pages. Urban local bodies have been given a period of 15 days window, and there they have to dispose their application. And once LOR is given, then within the scope of 30 days, the urban local bodies have been asked to do away with the survey and give them formal recognition. This 4 lakh number has now crossed 65 lakhs over a span of 2 years, mainly because of this instrument of letter of recommendation. Now, of course, the regular features of any portal were there, where we were giving them, informing their stage of application, every stage through SMS. And we have an interactive dashboard which every stakeholder can access, and customized reports are available which help them monitor the performance and review their performance. We have a very comprehensive database of street vendors family available with the ministry. All these 60 lakh street vendors and their families have been profiled. When I say profiled, it's not only with respect to the 8 schemes which we are offering. In fact, this portal can be customized to include the schemes of state governments also. In fact, already work is going on for Telangana has come forward, Madhya Pradesh has come forward, where their schemes also will be offered through this portal, max within, say, next 4 or 5 months. And all these stakeholders have been connected to the portal through API, because it's a very big task to have one hand Aadhaar server, on one hand you have got the bankers, the core banking solution, other hand you have got CGTMSC which administers credit guarantee, but everything is connected through this IT application. Next. Can we go to the next slide, please? Yeah. So this just says, already I have covered all these points, that what was before and what is now. And one more thing, that how to, regarding digital part, I would like to mention here, how to make these guys digitally, what to say, savvy. The initial scheme was that every bank branch, on the day of disbursement of loan, they will give them a QR code. Within the premises itself, there will be a training session, individual customized training session organized for every street vendor, where not only they will be trained, they penny drop transactions are conducted, pay 1 rupee and receive 1 rupee. So this, we have done that, and this, I will not say that this part has been a very big success, because out of around 2 lakh street vendors who have availed loans so far, around 20 lakh are digitally active. But look, digital transaction, in a way, it follows that it's not only the street vendor who, if he is interested, he can conduct digital transaction. Buyer also should be interested. Buyer also should be digitally savvy. So later we started training, orientation sessions for the customers also, because generally a street vendor operates in a very limited group. The customers for a street vendors are generally 20 to 30 in that age group. So the number in 20 to 30. So their orientation sessions also were organized during the later part of the implementation of the scheme. Can we go to the next slide? Let's move to the next slide. This already I have covered. This we have categorized that this particular initiative has got all the 3 features: G2, government to citizen, government to business, government to government. This part deals with what is there for government to citizen part. So this is a single online application form. Generally any bank loan application form, if you see, the bankers don't have a customized loan application form for small loan or big loan. For them, the loan application form is the same form. And generally, for example, for State Bank of India, the number of pages will not be less than 10. So in this case, we have customized it. We have made it a simple 2-page loan application form. And this was done in consultation with banks. I think we had almost 10 consultation session with all the public sector banks and microfinance institutions, NBFCs, private banks. Then it was devised. And bankers, once the loan application form is filled up online data is sent to the banks. And banks process the same application. Not only that, there is a facility in the portal where bankers can move one application from one branch to another branch. Because the algorithm is that whatever address they have got in their Aadhaar, based on that the loan application is sent to the concerned bank branch. But vendors are very mobile, so take care of that scenario. This internal moving of applications have been given. Actually, I'm unable to see from here. And of course, the interest subsidy and cashback for the digital transaction, everything is processed digitally through our PASA portal. Next. Can we go to the next slide, please? Yeah. This part deals with government to business. Already I have covered a lot of points. Only thing I want to say that this dashboard is real time. When I say real time, but when you click it now and click after 5 minutes, the data will be different. This is one of the very few dashboards of the central ministry where we have provided a real time dashboard. Yeah, please go to the next slide, please. Next. These are the results what we have achieved so far in the last 2.5 years. 36 lakh new street vendors have been identified through the letter of recommendation route, and this gave impetus this gave a nudge to the urban local bodies and state government also. They also started conducting, they conducted their surveys, formal recognition was given. That added another around 24 lakhs. And you can understand that from 4 lakh we have got now around 61 lakh loan applications. Around 40 lakh loans have been given. And total amount which is extended to the street vendors is more than 4,600 crores. Within 2.5 years of starting of the scheme. In fact, this has been rated as one of the fastest growing credit schemes in independent India. Please go to the next slide, please. And this is for just a performance summary what this scheme has done so far. Digitally enabled street vendors are around 27 lakhs. And digitally active is 16. When I say 16 lakh, we always take the activity for the past month. So this keeps fluctuating. So far we have achieved highest digital activity for around 22 lakh street vendors in the last 2.5 years. And they have conducted more than 42 crore digital transactions so far. Total loans closed, when I say 15 lakhs, it is basically all the loans which have been repaid so far, 15 lakhs. Remaining loans are in the process of various stages of repayment, because this loan is repaid in terms of equated monthly installments. And total repayment performance has been more than 90% for this scheme. Please go to the next slide. This gives performance summary for the first and second and third loan. Third loan is 50,000. Third loan started only 6 months before. And so far around 14,000 street vendors have availed the loan of 50,000 rupees. Please go to the next slide, please. Yeah. This just last slide is this, that these are the 8 Government of India schemes which we provide through this platform to the street vendors' families. That is Suraksha Bima Yojana, Jeevan Jyoti Bima Yojana, Janadhan Yojana, One Nation One Ration Card, Shram Yogi Mandhan Yojana, registration under Building and Other Construction Workers Act, and of course 2 schemes of women and child development, that is Janni Suraksha Yojana and Matru Vandana Yojana. One thing I want to mention, that this Suraksha Bima Yojana, so far 15 lakh family members of street vendors have joined. That's really a big figure for the unorganized sector within a span of whatever I have mentioned so far. Jeevan Jyoti Bima Yojana, 10.75 lakhs members have joined because of this scheme. And Shram Yogi Mandhan Yojana, which is a pension product for the unorganized sector, close to 3.75 lakh members have joined so far. So this all we could achieve only because of IT, and IT has been used in a big way. It is a paperless application process. Everything is through online. In fact, for this Swanidhi Se Samriddhi, how we conduct the survey, there is a mobile app. All these 8 schemes, eligibility conditions have been broken into small questions, simple questions. Our people, self-help group members, go to the vendors' families, they ask those questions, the responses are recorded. When the questionnaire is submitted, then automatically it pops up that, say, spouse is eligible for scheme A, B, C. Daughter-in-law is eligible for scheme C, D, E. And then monthly camps are held, which is chaired by the collector. First week of every month, starting first Monday, 1 week camps are held where all these nodal officers of these 8 schemes, they are assembled at one place. Vendors' families are mobilized, and then and there on spot applications are filled up and sanctions are given.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Just Nishit, one second. Hello. Hello, hello. Yeah, I can. Thank you very much, Mr. Sanjay Kumar. This is a scheme which is a very outstanding and transformative scheme, which is oriented towards street vendors. And as you know, that street vendors, especially in urban areas, are the most vulnerable group of people. Earlier, they were not having any identity at all. There used to be malpractices, mafias. Now, with the introduction of this, each street vendor is getting an identity. The loans which were given at a very high interest rate by loan sharks, now they can be part of the formal system. But one issue which was raised was earlier, that about the legislation and technology. This is a technology tool which is changing the governance. But one issue which remains there, like street vendors are identified by the municipal corporations. And many a times municipal corporations are not interested in identifying and enrolling the street vendors, fearing that once they enlist them, they will become entitled for something. They might start asking for shops, they might start asking for land, because many a times a street vendor might be there for 10 years, but without any identity. But now if identity is there, so that person can start asking legitimate rights and benefits. So many of the municipal corporations remain reluctant on this. So, but this is a process which has to be continuously worked. So technology, legislation, transformation, implementation, all these things come over a period of time. Now moving from a scheme which is focused on most vulnerable group to a scheme, to a project which is highly technology intensive, but at the back end, not having too much direct relevance in the sense that people may not be aware of this technology which is working at the back end. We have Professor Nishit Srivastava from IIT Kanpur, so I'll request him to give a brief on the project. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So, since we are running short on time, I will be brief. And anybody that has any questions about the technology, please feel free to talk to me outside of this session. Can we go to the next slide? Just move on. So, as Mr. Nath said, this is a very technology-heavy and policy-light project, which is why you see an academic in front of you, not an administrator. The question that we were asked was, what can a single grievance tell administrators? Now, you don't actually have to look at the text very much. This is essentially saying that there are some middlemen in the Excise and Taxation Commissioner's office in Rohtak. And this is from about a year ago, so it's not very hot topical. But let's move on and see how we would think about this using information processing systems that we are all familiar with. Next slide. So, the two questions that you want to ask, I'm giving a different example here, but the principle stays the same. The question you want to ask is, who should have oversight on how this grievance is handled? And if you get a lot of grievances that look like this, what policy implications could be potentially drawn? Now, the problem with traditional information processing systems is that the efficacy of redressal is opaque to the administrator. So you get this nice little message saying the grievance is disposed of in this many days. But what actually happened in that specific case? Was it effective? Was it useful? Or is it just placeholder text? We don't know. Also, which officers are doing a good job, which officers are not doing a good job, we don't know. And since the volume of public grievances is increasing rapidly, this was an area of concern that was flagged to us by DARPG, and so they asked us, well, how can you make sense of grievances in a more modern way? Next slide. So the traditional approach that all of you will be familiar with is that for any particular grievance, let's say this grievance is saying that items are being black marketed, yeah? But it has to do with the canteen stores departments under the Defense Ministry. So you can attach little categories. You can say it's corruption related, You can say it is canteen stores related, and so on. Now, the issue with this is that there's only so many categories that you can make before they become overwhelming in number. And at that point, all you can do is you can present summary statistics saying, in this category, these many grievances were received. But that doesn't actually tell you anything about the specific allegation, which is, in how many cases do we see that there's allegations of black marketing from canteen stores? And if so, is it across all canteen stores in the country, or is it specific to one or a few? So this is the sort of problem that existing information processing systems have. And even if you do a digital transformation, you take all your grievances, you bring them online, you stick them in a database, you still have the same problem. And I'll show you how. And I'll also show you how we solve this problem. Next slide, please. So the basic point of this presentation is that there has been a revolution in how information can be processed in digitized documents in the 19th century model of information processing, which even if you put it inside a database is still 19th century. What is inside one document has no reference to what is inside another document. Every document is atomic. There's no relationships that can be learned across documents. But in the 21st century, with artificial intelligence techniques, such as some examples that were discussed earlier in a different panel, it is possible to use artificial intelligence to understand documents automatically as sets of concepts. This is the technology that we've used to good effect in handling public grievances. How? Next slide. So what we've done is we've basically built an internal Google for CPgrams, the public database that contains public grievances. So we've built a search engine. Underneath the search engine, we have a semantic word embeddings technology. It uses a large language model, and it allows us to access the semantic meaning of documents in an automated manner. This system has been operational at the Ministry of Defense since April 2021, and it is going live in 10 other government ministries as we speak. What does this do? Let's look. Next slide, please. So what it basically does is it works exactly like Google works, except that now you can say, well, are there any complaints about irregularities in admissions to Senate schools? That's an actual search query you can type into the system. What does it give you? Next slide, and then quickly move on. Next slide again. Go, keep moving. Next slide. Move on. Just stop here. So basically what happens is that if you have a keyword-based search system, which many of your grievance management systems might have already, what you can do is you can search for, let's say, incorrect calculation of pension arrears. In the public grievances business, you would know that a very large majority of, well, not a majority, but a large plurality of grievances have to do with pension or pay being incorrectly calculated. So you can certainly do a keyword-based search, and it would actually get you a reasonable set of results. But if you look for a query that is not as well-defined from the length of an administrative process, such as corruption, officers asking for a bribe, then you will find that people talk about the same aspect using different words. And it's possible for your keyword search to miss out many of these sort of dark matter of grievances. So the example I'm showing you out of a set of 100 corruption-related grievances that our semantic search engine finds, 71 of them are actually missed by a keyword-based search, but the semantic search engine returns all of them. Move on. Next slide. So here I'm just pointing you quickly to these instances. So I'm searching for allegations of corruption that CSD canteen grievance shows up. The word corruption does not figure anywhere in it, but I still retrieve it when I search. Move on. Next slide. Similarly, when I look for allegations of improper reporting in recruitment, I get grievances that look like this. Next. If I look for allegations of nepotism, nepotism is a very abstract concept, but look at the grievance that is retrieved. So they selected a candidate who has a connection with the station officer. So a connection is not really a blood relation, but it's picking up the gist of the query and it is generating a response. Next slide. Keep moving. Next slide. So with this backend, we are able to extract meaningful information about the gist of grievances. And what we then do with this is we can say for a particular search, let's say you search for irregularities in recruitment in Kendriya Vidyalayas, just a random example. What you will get is an interface display at either the state level or the district level or whatever level of administration you want to define. The size of the circles denotes the number of grievances that are being found relevant to this particular query, and the color going from blue to red essentially describes the efficacy of the redressal, the way we measure it. So blue means good and red means bad, and so on and so forth. Clicking through on these locations reveals the actual details of the grievances that are responsive to this complaint, and it is a multi-level tree that can zoom in or zoom out the way you want it to. Next slide, please. So what you can do with it is you can look at and you can try and identify policy issues. Next slide. You can also look for problem areas for a particular issue. For example, for Manrega, is there a particular area of the country where there are grievances? For PMJ, is there a particular office where we are having lots of difficulty? Using this particular interface, we were able to show IRDAI that in Lalitpur, within UP, there was a problem with the health insurance scheme, and it just popped out at us when we were analyzing the data, just sitting in front of them while talking to them. So this is a very powerful technology. Next slide, please. So what DRPG is pushing us to do, and we are hoping to deliver in the near future, hopefully by the end of this year, is a public grievance management system where the citizen, when they enter their grievance, and they can speak the grievance or they can type it in, while they're typing it in, the system should understand the gist of what they're complaining about, and it should prompt them, so it becomes a conversational AI sort of system, the way that you heard from Haptic earlier in the day. So are you complaining about an error in your pension calculation? So based on the text, it says that if the user confirms this, then you specify your management information system kicks in and you say, well, I need this document from you, I need this document from you, I need this document from you, please upload them. And then the documents are OCR'd, and we already do that already. They're routed, and then you fix accountability by saying that the office handling your complaint may be contacted this way. That's the sort of workflow that we are hoping to acquire by the end of this year and deliver to DRPG. Next slide, please. Just keep clicking through. Just stop. So, since nobody gives you the time of the day anymore, before you have to claim that you're using artificial intelligence for anybody to take you seriously. Yes, we do use artificial intelligence, though I'm not very proud of it. So we use transformer models like the sort of transformer models that you're seeing these days with ChatGPT. We use those same models to generate our word embeddings. We also use machine learning models to train urgency detection, urgency prediction. This grievance has to be handled urgently. This grievance is spam. We do that based on GRO's feedback, as well as a bunch of other goodies. Next slide, please. So I will not take more than 1 minute to say this part. So you've invited a professor, so I'll give you a mini lecture. We've been doing many projects in e-governance, and we've found out that there's I'm summarizing it as 3 design principles that you can always find in good e-governance projects like the ones we've seen today. Move on, next. 2 clicks, please. So what signifies a good in e-governance initiative? You're either reducing latency, you're making a process faster, next, or next, you're removing redundancies, some documents that did not have to be captured, some 3 places where data is going where it could just go to 1 place, next, or it could be to eliminate indeterminism where there's some discretion that somebody has to either accept your application or not accept your application, and so on and so forth. So by streamlining processes, you can reduce latency, you can remove redundancies, you can eliminate indeterminism. This was, I think, seen in many of the initiatives that we saw earlier in the day. And so based on our understanding of working with multiple such projects, this is something I thought I should bring to you. However, there's also a flip side. Next. So there's also anti-design principles for e-governance, which you always find in not so great e-governance systems. And this is also relevant for us, so I thought I should talk about it. So the first, of course, is Goodhart's law. So every time you say, well, we have to measure performance in a system, so let's design a KPI, and now everybody is going to be measured based on that KPI. Then everybody tries to goal seek that KPI, and it no longer is a measure of the thing that you were trying to measure. So a lot of times we set up systems to measure managerial performance. I'll give the example of academia. So you say you have to publish papers in order for us to pay you, and so a whole bunch of crap papers keep getting published, and nobody knows anything about what's written in them. So that's one, which is that not everything that has to be measured can be measured, and not everything that can be measured should be measured. That's one. Second is automation. Of course, automation is great. It reduces latency, it makes things more transparent, etc. But it also comes with a caveat that when you centralize data, you also centralize risk, as we saw in Ames, Delhi, when their systems were attacked. So when you have decentralized data storage and when you have decentralized processes, failure is also decentralized. When you have centralized data structures and you have centralized processes, failure risk also increases, and then cybersecurity measures have to kick in, and also all kinds of backups have to be taken, and that's an important thing to keep in mind. Finally, this might seem very relevant, but this is from 100 years ago. Oscar Wilde said this. Wherever you have rules, wherever you have centralization, you always lose out on some context. And what frequently happens is that people are trapped doing suboptimal things. I'm happy to take examples about this offline. Let's quickly finish. Move on. Next. Let's just click through this. Next. Just click through. So the point on which I'll close this is that mechanically applying technology, even with noble intentions, doesn't always yield results, good results over the long run, and so e-governance in particular has to consider the social fabric of our culture. Automation reduces discretion, persistent surveillance, even surveillance of digital forms. It removes dignity, and continuous centralization reduces social cohesion. Next. Let us not make the same mistakes as 20th century central planners who thought that they could manage or bureaucratize everything. Next. On a happy note, the best of e-governance is ahead of us. We don't have to make the same mistakes made in the West. And so our model of e-governance has to be more sensitive, and it will be if we all work together. So I'll stop with that.
Thank you very much. And as Professor Nishit concluded, that automation has to be not only for the sake of, not for the sake of automation, but for the context. Ultimately, it has to solve the problems of the citizens. It has to be citizen-centric. And this project DRPG is implementing, and it's going to be live in 10 ministries. It's a glimpse of the things to come. It's still a work in progress. And just to give one example, what you just noticed, that when it is fully implemented, if there is some issue which a citizen is trying to fill in, the system can ask the relevant documents also, which generally you might have seen that when you go to one office, the officer will not tell you everything. He will ask one document. Next time you bring that document, he will find some mistake, ask some other documents. So you are always actually running to the offices. So here, the computer can ask all things. That if you want to solve your pension calculation is wrong, then please provide all these documents. Attach all these documents. And maybe we are looking forward to a stage where the computer itself can fetch that particular document from the database which is already there. Like if a government employee, he has retired from the government, every document has to be with some government department. Why ask the employee or officers? So the technology is there, and it's one of the latest and best futuristic technology which is going to be implemented, and we are looking forward to its results shortly. Now, moving on to the next. First was the direct citizen interface. The second was a kind of a back end. And third one is a project level implementation which has helped the citizens. And we have Ms. Rukmani with us. She is District Magistrate of Hanumangarh district in Rajasthan. I'll request her to make her presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The project that I'm going to share with you all today is a grassroots initiative that we did while I was in Ganganagar as district collector. Before we move ahead, I'd like to brief you about the geography of the district that I served in. Ganganagar is in the northern part of Rajasthan, and 99% of the agriculture that happens there is dependent on canal irrigation. It is an agricultural economy, and Gang Canal goes through 23 channels in the district, covering 1.5 lakh farmers of the district. And since 100 years, the whole project of distribution of water in Gang Canal was done manually. And how did this idea of an initiative to digitalize this come to mind? So when I joined as magistrate of Ganganagar district, there was a farmer agitation that was going on, and the issue that was told to me was that they were supposed to get X amount of water, and that water was not given to them in the due time, and hence the agitation had begun. So while we moved and reconciled and the agitation got over, the issue stayed, and the issue was manual intervention. When the water is coming from Satluj through Punjab into Rajasthan, why can't everybody in the district know how much water is coming in and when will they get that water? So we started with the help of our own NIC to make the whole process computerized and digitalized, and we decided not to spend any extra money and yet try and computerize our age-old regulation system. Next slide. What is this e-governance initiative? So you see, Gang Canal gets water from Satluj, and the water is distributed by Bhakra Byas Management Committee to Punjab, Himachal Pradesh, Haryana, Delhi and Rajasthan. So there are 5 states that are getting the distribution of this water. And even though the share of water is decided by BBMC, yet there is always fluctuation. For example, if there is a paddy sowing season in Punjab, definitely there will be more water consumption in Punjab. That means less water is going to flow down to Rajasthan, even though at that time of the year Rajasthan has more water as per our BBMC regulation. Similarly, if Rajasthan is consuming more water during paddy season, it is bound to affect the distribution to the tail end of the farmers of our district. So the point that I'm trying to make is, when there is a manual system, there is always discrepancy in the amount of water that is flowing. There is also issue with the not just amount of water but also when the water will flow. So if, for example, at one canal, for example the L canal, the water has to flow, and we say ki 1200 cubic of water is supposed to flow today, and L canal will be distributing water. If that is the case, if that particular day 1200 cubic is not flowing and only 1100 cubic of water is flowing, so that means my district is getting 100 cubic less water. If 100 cubic less water is coming, that means the entire regulation chart has to change. So somebody will not be getting the water that was promised to them a day before that you will get. That will cause some kind of dissatisfaction in people, and the beneficiaries may not always think that that dissatisfaction has come only because there is water that has come which is less from, say, another state, but they may feel that there is some manual interference or there is some favoritism that has played some role, and somebody else has been benefited and given that water which was supposedly mine. Next slide. So what was the system initially? So there was a gauge reader. The gauge reader used to read every 3 hours the amount of water that is coming into the district. He used to inform the dealing clerk. The dealing clerk used to do the entry in a register. He used to inform the AEN and JEN who used to then make a regulation chart, which was done manually, and then that chart was given to the newspapers, who would give it in their papers, which will be received by the farmers of the district next day in the morning edition of the papers. What is it that we tried to do? We installed the SCADA system in all our water bases. The computer used to record the amount of water flowing into the district. Automatically that amount of water used to be taken up through our intelligence system into a website. We made a web portal, and in the end we linked that web portal to the mobile phone application of all the farmers, who will then get a real-time database as to how much water is flowing into our district at a particular time, and also what is the regulation chart of that particular day. Next. So this is how our the website looked. So you can see that 2400 cubic water is what is the water that particular day we were supposed to get. 2169 is what we were getting at a particular head where the district starts the water distribution, and 2016 is the amount of cubic of water that is at the first canal that starts distributing water to 1.5 lakh farmers of the district. You could also see the status of the canals. So all the canals that are in green means these are the canals of the district that are presently running. All the canals that are in red are the canals in the district that are not running. When we made this web portal, we realized that in any e-governance initiative, it is not just important to put the data on a digital platform. We also need to look at the beneficiaries who are on the negative end of this digital divide. There are people who are not able to access a web portal. So what did we do? We tried to link this web portal with a mobile application, because mobiles have more accessibility in today's India. Next. So this is how our app looked on the phone. So every farmer could open the app, see how much water is coming, and it could go to the canals. Next. If you press the canals, it will tell you in the district which are the canals running. Next. If I clicked on a particular canal on which I am, it will tell you that it is running and it opened on so and so date at so and so time, and now it will close on so and so date at so and so time. And if there is any change in water regulation, it will be updated real-time basis, which could be seen by the farmers that the water level has reduced or increased. Accordingly, the water flow in the canal system has changed. Next slide. And this was made in 3 languages: Punjabi, Hindi and English, all the 3 languages that were used by the farmers of the district. So it was a trilingual application. Next. When we made this, we thought that is a good work done and we should pat on our backs. But then we had a feedback system from the farmers, and they said that it's all very good and all, but what we want is we should get a message. Now your application has updated that the canal water has increased or decreased, but we didn't go to the application and we didn't get to know. There should be, like on WhatsApp, you get a notification that the water level has changed. We should also get a similar notification. So we sat to think about it, that how do we do that without actually adding any additional financial burden to the government. So next slide. We went village to village. This is just photograph of that, how we helped farmers install this application on their phone. Next. So we came across the Sandesh application of Government of India. It is a state-owned free instant messaging platform that was developed in 2020 by NIC. And you could, we started sending messages on Sandesh application. So what we basically did, we linked our Gang Canal application with the state application, and Sandesh had all the back-end data of the farmers of our district. So if there is change in any canal or water regulation system, we would start sending that messages and they could start receiving it on the Sandesh app free of cost. So by the end of it, we were sending about 1 lakh messages every month to the farmers of our district. When we started doing that, we realized the power of e-governance, and we realized the power of the fact that we have a captive audience of 1.5 lakh farmers of the district. Now why not use this platform to inform the farmers of all the government schemes, state government and central government, which they can benefit from. Next slide. So we started sending them messages about Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana, PM Samman Nidhi Yojana. We also started informing them about orchard insurance, soil health cards, and you could see on this slide how much that made a difference. For example, if 31st March was the last day for filling of a form for an insurance scheme, we started giving them that information 1 month in advance. And for orchard insurance, we had more than 5,000 applications in that year that we started sending messages, where we had only 437 applications of Orchard Insurance a year before that. Next slide. So these are different comparisons of the amount of exhaustive messaging that we did through our application and the kind of saturation of schemes that we got with the help of our e-governance initiative. Next. We also, there was significant reduction in public grievances because everything was online, and you could see that with respect to corruption, there was irregularity that led to 50% reduction of public grievances. With respect to farmers' issue on fixing of turn of their canal water, there was a reduction of 71%. And with respect to problems of shortage of water in the canal, there was a reduction in 16% of complaints. Next slide. We had a lot of appreciation and tweets, not from just the farmers, but the unions who worked tirelessly with the farmers every day for their water rights. And next. So what was interesting is also that sometimes you think that this is something that is only respect to one particular district of a particular state. But if you think about it, we can use this not just for all the states where there is canal water irrigation, but we can also use it for relief for all the places where there are dams and there are people who are dependent on that particular area for their livelihood. And in the meantime, because I got posted to the next district, that is Hanumangarh, where the irrigation is based on Bhakra irrigation system. So we are now implementing the same system for Indira Gandhi Canal as well as the Bhakra irrigation system in Hanumangarh district. So that is the initiative that we did in the district. Thank you for this opportunity.
So you see, this is an example where when she joined in the district, there was a problem, agitation was going on, and the technology was used to solve the problem of distribution of water. In many of these states and districts, the issue of water distribution is quite emotive. So maybe those who have this issue in their states, they can think of utilizing this application. The another thing I would like to point out is that once you have implemented a project, there are other co-benefits. As she mentioned, that they started using this application for dissemination of other schemes also. Similarly, Swanidhi was also there, where once a database has been prepared, it was also being used for schemes relating to construction, workers' welfare, or insurance schemes and those kind of things. So once a project is there, then it throws up opportunities for using that application for other benefits also. Now moving on to the next presentation, the Kerala has done a large number of e-governance related initiatives, and I got the opportunity to see several of these presentations recently. We have with us Dr. Asha Thomas. She is Additional Chief Secretary, Government of Kerala. I'll request her to make a presentation on these issues.
I have with me Mr. Snehal Kumar Singh, who is the Director of the IT Mission of Kerala, and he will be actually making the presentation on online service delivery. But as an introduction, I just wanted to say that I've always been fascinated by the fact I spent some time living in the US because my family was there, and I have never heard the word e-governance there. It's as if everything is e anyway. Whereas I come from Kerala, where our successive welfare governments wanted to increase accessibility for services for people there. So one time what we were trying to do was to take the brick and mortar infrastructure all the way down to the lowest level possible. So increasing access even to a tribal area meant putting up a building there with people in it who would do the service delivery. Moving from there suddenly into online service delivery concept in a state like Kerala, where everybody is very aware of their rights, and where bringing in one computer means people think that one person's job is gone. the person who was physically delivering it. I was watching the previous presentation, and the first thing I thought of was when Madam showed how you took away the role of the dealing officer and the JN, and I'm asking myself, oh my God, who's out of a job now? So, but this is a typical, perhaps, Kerala way of looking at things. So it's to a great extent, therefore, pushing online service delivery in Kerala became a top-down approach, because it was, as we earlier discussed, it's not like we put a policy in place and then went ahead and did this. It was actually driven by vision from the top that yes, we should get this done. With these words, I would like to call on Mr. Snehal Kumar Singh, who is the director of the IT mission of Kerala, who would make the presentation on online service delivery in Kerala.
Good afternoon, respected dignitaries on the dais. Thank you, ma'am, for the opportunity. Can we have the presentation, please? So, as ma'am pointed out, like we focus on the online service delivery is in a different perspective now, because all the departments have actually digitalized their processes over the time, and these applications have developed over years. It hasn't happened in one go with no common standards, and that is where the core problem exists, that these applications, with whatever reasons, have been designed in very different formats, in very different shape. And now when we have come to this position, we are starting to realize that, okay, this is not providing a unified experience. It is not providing, because once you have digitized the process, that department is digitized. But for the citizen, the problem may still persist, because he has to go for X department or to the Y department. And I think that is where the whole idea of creating a unified service delivery platform and using the same for decision making comes out. Can we go to the next slide, please? So the lack of centralized platform for government services was one of the things that we noted down, that the citizen has to learn different websites, has to Google their different website for different departments, and then go forth and apply for those services again and again. As I was mentioning out, that when the databases are already there, that why are they not talking to each other? Why are these systems not talking to each other and ensuring the citizen gets easier in terms of whatever services they are doing? Because digitization is now simple, and I'm pretty sure and I'm pretty positive that every state and every department has done some sense of digitization and reduced the efforts which are required. So this problem statement is where we started. Next, please. So we started this activity initially with the mere exercise of digitization of 500 services from various 60 departments, and that was a more rudimentary exercise of compiling all this information, that okay, which department is offering which service and how are they offering it, what is the URL, what is their application, what is their structure, what are the documents that they are requiring it. And then we realized that no, we need a better and a more systematic approach, and we developed the online service tracker. So online service tracker is a back-end application. It is only for G2G, where the departments are supposed to enter the information for whatever services that they are offering. So basically we are creating a service catalog for the entire state. Now when we started the online service tracker, it actually it took its own due time to push and insist the department to feed the information, because with every other project we get that problem. But over the time we were able to compile around 600 to 700 services, and then once you catalog these services on the service tracker, we verified from the IT department that is this service actually working or not. And believe it or not, we found out around 10% of the services were actually not functioning. The department applications were not working, their website was down, and they were not even aware. Probably nobody bothered to do that vetting. So when we do that vetting, we pointed out this information to the concerned department, and the concerned department, maybe they have developed it through NIC, maybe through some other private agency, and however they were able to sort out these issues. And gradually our service tracker grew, and we started from 500. Now we launched this e-Sevanam platform called it's a web application and a mobile application called services.kerala.gov.in, and which is a bouquet of all the services that are being offered. The data is compiled from the service tracker, which is fed from the department. We verified, vetted, and then put it across to the services page. Next. This I've already explained that. So the idea is that the information that is being collected is connected on a back-end application which is already integrated to the Savenum portal also. So there is no re-application of data entry in terms of any of the applications which are available, and we call APIs for fetching this information that which are the services which are available, which are not available, because a lot of departments are not deleting the services when they found out that this scheme is digitized, but nobody has ever applied for it for past 5 years. And the department then realized that it's not very practical to continue for that, so we gave the department this option of removing services or further adding on those services. Next, please. So this is the basic crux of the advantages of running an online service tracker, because the verification of department application is something which I think all departments struggle with. We build application, but we never bother to update it with technology, with time, with the vulnerabilities that they are facing, and that creates deeper problems in later on. The data standardization is something which I would also point it out later on in our forward vision, that all these departments have maintained their own databases, and there is no standard. Like a very simple example would be how is date of birth recorded for a citizen in various departments. That format is also not fixed for most of the states and most of the departments. And I think that this kind of problems are the ones when you bring the data together, these data cleaning is a big headache. If you talk to any developer, they'll be like, sir, I'm not going to do this. So this is just one example. This data standardization problem is something which has started to come up now when we're doing these exercises. Next, please. So this is just a screenshot of how the online service tracker looks. We collect the department, service name, the English, Malayalam name, description, and we collect the other information like what are the certificate that they require, what is the time limit, what is the web URL, is the application working, what is the website, and all the necessary details on the service tracker. And this has to be filled up by the nodal officers of the concerned department. Next, please. Next. Yeah, so this is the this is an internal dashboard for the service tracker where we have 881 services, which is probably one of the highest in the country. Because we have some information services, we have some application services, and it's not just department, there are user agencies also. For example, water authority, electricity board, and every user agency will have some kind of application running around, and we have tried to combine it all together. And we have checked if these applications are mobile responsive, so we have also deregulated them and given them on the mobile application platform so that it is available. It's not a mobile application per se, let me be very clear, it is a redirection on their website, and it's a mobile friendly interface at this point of time. And we have a single sign-on system for 99 of the services out of the odd 881, in which one single sign, we are using NIC's Janpariche only, and we have enabled it with Aadhaar so that it becomes easier for the citizens to use that. Next, please. This is just the screenshot of nodal officer, how we are collecting information from the concerned department, which level of officer is responsible for that. Next. Yeah, so this is our Savenum page. Go next. So we have around 884 services right now, and we have 730 application and 154 informational services. It is enabled in Malayalam. It caters to the access guidelines and with service plus integration, and all the different applications are also integrated. We'll just go to the next slide to get a feel of how it is looking. So we have cataloged the services. This is the homepage of services portal. We have cataloged it into different categories: farmer, social security, pension, student, utilities, and henceforth, and also department-wise segregation has been done so that it gets easier for the citizens to actually filter out the services which are required to do so. And we manage this software through our developer team within the IT department, and we discuss with all the different stakeholders. Next, please. These are the kind of information that is available for citizens to see. What are the documents, which is the contact person, what are the documents required, and what is the days limit for which you will be able to get the service for. And once the user goes and clicks on it, it is right now redirecting it to the concerned department. If it is a SSO enabled application, they don't have to necessarily log in again, and they will get their services within that. Otherwise, they'll have to log in, use their user IDs for their concerned department, and get the service. Next. So this is what we have explained, that the service tracker works parallelly for collecting information from nodal officers. We have a database commonality which is owned by IT Mission, and CDIT is on a partner institute for us, and then the Savenum gets populated. and the mobile application. And citizen interface is only on SaveNum. Now gradually, once we launch the SaveNum, we have started getting hits and redirection from the SaveNum page itself, because we have given slight publicity on services page, so the departments, the citizens don't have to do a Google search that, okay, I have to go to excise, I have to go to for IT department or for industry department. So we've tried to consolidate all these things together. Yeah, next please. So beyond going further on this, we have integrated the dashboards on backend for 507 of these services. Why not all? Because some of the services are informational, some of the departments are not maintaining databases which are authentic. Now this dashboard gives a live application status which are pending, which are approved, which are rejected, which is monitored by the Honorable Chief Secretary on almost weekly basis, and the departments are judged on their performances, and gradually these departments are assessed based on how categorization of services are. You can go to the next slide please. So this is a sample department service analysis. So for example, backward classes department is giving 14 services, out of which we have done grading for above 90% disposal, 75 to 90, 40 to 75, and whenever we see a red, we know we can drill it down to state level, district level, and to village level also if it is a village level service, and we will be able to see where actually the pendency is more, or where the performance is getting stuck. Next please. Furthermore, we have this schematic analysis. This is mostly for internal purposes, because citizen will not necessarily bother if which service is being used more, but it really gives an insight on the departments which service they should focus on, because the number of hits that they're getting for every service provides us that kind of information. We realize that, for example, LSGD department, the local self government department, the revenue department are one of the key stakeholders for digitization, and that is where I think the legacy application issue is coming up for us to do the future plans. Next please. So this I have already briefed, and I'll quickly, can we go to the next slide? Yeah, so this is where I think we are targeting, and we are in a pretty good shape, I would say, but we have not achieved it yet. The idea is to give one government experience. The citizen should log into one page, should get the services then and there. They should not be redirecting to the concerned department, and they should not be refilling the forms again and again for various services. But the problem is that we have already legacy applications running around. Now you can't just stop that applications, right? And no department will do it, and I don't think it should be centrally done. And very rightly pointed out that centralization is not a smart technology as a design principle for e-governance, because it creates a lot of redundancy for this. But what we are envisaging is that we can have a common front end, and we can have a common set of applications in which the dependency on one particular application goes down. What I mean by that is that there should be a separate payment gateway, there should be a common there should be a separate single sign-on gateway, there should be an email gateway, there should be a notification gateway, which are independent to each other, but they are interlinked to all departments, which will solve the problem of interlinking and process re-engineering of the department. And frankly speaking, it is the responsibility of the department to do the process re-engineering, and it's the mandate of the concerned department. We cannot do the process re-engineering. We cannot ask that village officers should not send the application for verification to Tehsildar. We cannot do that. But what we can do is provide a common payment gateway, common interface for them to do that. What comes out of it is the decentralized control. That the department owns the data, the department manages the back end of the application, the department manages the database of that, which will ensure that anything which is to be done will not come centrally to our portal, but will be done by the department there itself. We are just providing them API linkages for the use cases. The fourth most important part of this exercise is to have a unified citizen registry, which is easier said than done. That the type of data that we are collecting, and I'm reiterating this, is in a very bad shape right now. What the departments are collecting, the amount of data that we generate is huge, right? We're dealing with numbers in crores. But when you start assessing what kind of data that we have, the name is lost. But still we are giving that XYZ pension to that person. The age is not there, the address is not there, but still, we can't deny a service to any citizen for that reason. But the quality of data is where we are struggling. And now in Kerala, we have started the Unified Registry project for interlinking most of the pension schemes. The PDS is our core database for that, and we have already onboarded around 3 crore databases of citizens, in which we are only collecting the information whether this person is getting the service, yes or no. So it's a very simplistic data set in which there's a reference ID and the fact that this person is collecting this pension, yes or no, that's it. So what it does is it creates a data set for which we can provide this to the citizen itself. So once we are designing a one government experience, the citizen, once you log in, will be able to see that I am availing so-and-so services, I am eligible for so-and-so services, and it's very easy to do if we do the service cataloging properly. Every department should categorize what service are they offering and what are the objective criteria for doing that. And I think that will be very easy if we develop the unified registry. And I think every state has done some kind of exercise in terms of unified registry, and we are also targeting that. But the amount of data analysis that it requires is not complicated per se. It's just the matter of taking up that work of sitting and cleaning up that data, and deduplicating, using Aadhaar maybe as an ID, village as an ID. We have a lot of tools, and I also don't want to use AI and ML because I feel they're pretty dumb, frankly, AI and ML. But we need to use AI and ML for doing certain things which it might take some more time. Having said that, I think the direction that we need to go is to clean up the databases, integrate all these things in the backend, have a data standardization, and then go ahead with it. Because otherwise, we cannot revolutionize government services just by mere changing one or two processes or merely digitizing one or two processes. It has to be done in a holistic fashion. Next, please. So this I've already explained in what we're trying to do, the implementation challenge of service cataloging, integration of databases and using common applications, and data standardization and legacy application. And still maintaining a multi-level application structures for ensuring that the citizen has a clear idea. So this is it from my end. I would request Asha ma'am to take up for the next e-health part of it.
Actually, we had a small add-on regarding e-health, but I think we are already, in the interest of time, we'll just wrap it up. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I think all of these presentations were outstanding, and I think these are just the snapshots, introduction to the applications. And in the interest of time, we would like to close this session because next section should be scheduled on time. So those who are interested in knowing further, so you can contact the individual resource person, and they will be glad to provide further information to you. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
So one presentation about please be on the stage. Yeah, please be on the stage for a photo, and please accept a small token, small gift. I invite Mitali Sethi ma'am, and I request her to felicitate all the panelists and the chairperson. We are felicitating everyone with a goodie bag. 2023 is a year, and it's an international year for millets, and we have very interesting millets in this goodie bag. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much, Amarnath ji. Thank you so much, all the panelists. And as sir mentioned in the beginning of the session, in spite of being a post-lunch session, they made it very interesting, and we'll have a very big round of applause for the whole panel. Thank you so much. And now moving ahead, we have a presentation on the project Kutum, Entitlement Management System, Government of Karnataka, and we are having Shri V. Punuraj, Secretary, DPAR, online. So let's have this online presentation, and then we'll be starting with the next session. Hello, hello. Hello, 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 hello. Hello, 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 hello. Let's start with the next session. Best Practices of Government of Maharashtra. We now begin our next session, which presents the best practices of Government of Maharashtra. Let's welcome the chair and the panelists with a warm round of applause. I invite on stage chairperson of the session 4, Shri S. Chokalingam, Director General Yashoda Pune. He has served in almost all regions of Maharashtra. Can we have a big round of applause for him? Thank you so much. I also invite Srimati Mitali Sethi, Director Vanamati, as a panelist. Please, we'll welcome her with a good round of applause. Srimati Mitali Sethi, Director Vanamati. Welcome, ma'am. We have Shri Karthikeyan, Assistant Collector Pusad, Subdivision Yavatmal. We'll welcome him with a good round of applause. Welcome, sir. We have Srimati Ashima Mittal, CEO Nasik. Ashima Mittal ji, CEO Nasik. Welcome, ma'am. We also have Srimati Radhika Rastogi, Joint Director, LBS NNA. Welcome, ma'am, Srimati Radhika Rastogi. And we have Shri Shravan Hardikar, IGR, Department of Registration. Thank you so much, the chairperson and the panelist. And I request you, sir, to go ahead and proceed with the session. Thank you so much. Before starting this session, we'll listen to the project Kutumba.
Good evening to all of you, and in e-governance, as one of the leading states, Maharashtra always led the way. Let us start with something which is crucial to government functioning, the public treasury. Without income, no one can survive, more so the government. As told in the morning, what percent of GDP is taxation, how it affects provision of services we know. Let us look at how easy it is to pay to the government. One can understand it takes time, maybe many applications, standing in queues to get the money. But do we ever understand that it is difficult to pay money to government also? Not now. Around 10 years earlier, you have to go and get a challan or get it approved by someone. Then you go to the bank and pay that. This was the way the payment was being done. Paying to the government was itself a pain. Now I will request Rastogi Madam to tell how the government receipt accounting system has changed the way the people pay to the public treasury. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Cho. A very good evening to all the dignitaries here. In fact, I'll not only talk about the government receipt accounting system, but also the entire automation of the treasury functions in the government of Maharashtra. Well, I served as the Secretary, Accounts and Treasuries from 2013 to 2015. And initially I was very reluctant to join this department because I was not very keen on finance. And there was a lot of accounting procedures, rules, and a lot of automation which was going on in the department at that point in time. So I said I'm not really cut out for this kind of a job. But I had to nevertheless join because the orders were given. So after going there was a lot of learning for me which I would like to share with you. It's not as though I've done anything great. I'm not an engineer. I don't have any background in IT. I have a husband who has always been into IT. So in that sense, I always felt a little insecure that he knows what he's doing, but I won't know what I'd be doing. And after going there, I realized a department like Accounts and Treasuries, where everything is based on clearly spelled out rules, procedures, standard operating processes for everything are very clearly laid out. So in such a situation, these things must necessarily be automated. Nothing is left to human discretion here. Everything is spelled out. So the only thing I realized I need to do is what we are doing in the physical world. When we do virtually, it should take the same amount of time and effort. The moment it takes more time to do it virtually, then people are discouraged in adopting that process. So that was the first principle with which I went ahead. That when we do something in an automated mode, it should be easier and simpler. So while doing it, what we decided was, we'll first look at our physical processes. How do we go about doing the various treasury functions? How do we generate a challan? How do we make the payment? How many steps are involved? And then we decided what steps have to be kept and what should be eliminated. And then we sat with the software developer, the vendors, and said this is what we require. So they would develop and then come back to us, and then we would say no, this is not working. It's not making sense. Because at the end of the day, most of the times people think that digital governance or something is those with some IT background. But all the users, all the people who work on these systems are people without an IT background. So unless there are people who don't have an IT background working on the development along with the software developers, it will never be a user-friendly system. So the government accounting and receipt system of Maharashtra was developed in the year 2010. But even till 2013, it still had a lot of issues with regard to the look and feel of it, the processes, how do you navigate the portal. So these issues had to be sorted out because the clerks were having a lot of issues, the treasuries, sub-treasuries were having issues. And then we sat with, this was developed by NIC Pune, and then we said, see, if we have to spend the whole time looking at a screen, it should not give us fatigue. So can you give us better colors, better kind of fonts, better, easier ways to navigate, something which is more intuitive, like your tablet or something where children are also able to play on it. So accordingly, we sat with them and worked through each and every step. And then we said most of the times there would be questions from our sub-treasuries and treasuries, and we would be issuing clarifications. I said, let's not do that. Let's have one standard government resolution, GR or OM as it's called in Government of India. So we said, let us develop that so that we understand. If I don't understand as secretary of the department, I won't expect some clerk in some sub-treasury to understand it. So we said, yes, now I enter the system. What do I do? So step by step we went, and then we realized certain functions were redundant if we are doing it electronically. So we said, now we need to do away with this step. So we went step by step, and all the people who worked on this automation of treasury functions were without any engineering degree or IT background. And that's why in the past there was a firm called Accenture who was working with us. They were the consultants. But then we realized we had to actually train them to be accountants, financial managers. They should understand our processes first, and then they will talk to the TCS or NIC to develop. Then I said, why do we need this middleman? Why can't we directly sit with them? So I said, after working with them for 3 to 4 months, I said, I don't want Accenture or any other intermediary consultant, because those people who are going to work the system will have to give their requirement. So the actual joint directors, deputy directors, and district treasury officers, we sat together with the NIC team and the TCS and said, this is what we want. And then they had to deliver to us. So when this was being done, there was a lot of issues with regard to the vendor again. So when it is a private vendor, many times what we tend to do is, a TCS who has done a lot of things would know much better than us. But not so. Each project is unique, each project is distinct, and only the user and the department which owns it will know what is wrong with it, whether it's working or not. So we said, no, you can't tell us how long it will take. This is something we give you in bits and pieces. We go incrementally, step by step. You improve upon it. So they said, okay, we'll do it. And within a matter of 2 years, not just the grass, but we could also get the pension package, the Save Earth, the defined contributory pension scheme, and the loans and advances, the GPF module, several such modules. Most of them, all of these are treasury functions. All of these were automated. Now, when we were developing this salary package, Save Earth is nothing but a salary package. When we were doing it online, there was a lot of opposition, which we did not realize why. And the only reason was, when you give as a lump sum, in fact, at that point in time, there were around 6.5 lakh government employees and around 12 lakh in aided institutions. Now we have around 7.6 or something government employees and maybe double that amount in the aided institutions. So when we are giving these lump sum grants to the aided institutions, we didn't know what was happening. How many employees did they have? How were they disbursing? And then we realized, when we directly linked it to their bank accounts, we saved almost around 350 crores of rupees, because there were so many ghost accounts, there were so many duplicate payments which were being made, and so many other issues which you do not realize. So this was a lot of saving for us. And in grass also, initially not all banks were willing to come on board. So it started with 3 to 4 banks. Now we have, I think, around 19 banks which are onboarded on grass, 69 departments. So once a user, if I, Radhika Rastogi, enter the system, I am given a unique number. I can do my stamp duty payment, I can do my any other tax payment, anything to the government of Maharashtra. It's a very easy and simple system, easy to navigate, and over the years, the look and feel of it also has been improved a lot to make it more user-friendly, easy on the eye, and easy to navigate. So this eliminates your need to register multiple times. Once you're in the system will remember you. You can make payment from anywhere 24/7. Immediately you'll get a receipt. So it makes life very easy for all of us. And the only problem, since the Good Governance Committee members are all here, all my respected seniors, and the Administrative Reforms Government of India Department is also here, I think, sir, what I feel is, we look at technology as in isolation. But along with the technology, the kind of people we recruit into the system also need to change. And the Future of Jobs Report 2020 of the World Economic Forum has already said what kind of capabilities are becoming redundant and what are emerging. But our RRs and the promotion rules are not keeping pace with these requirements. So what happens is, many times officers are giving their passwords to their subordinates, youngsters, contractual staff, and they are operating the system, whereas the officer is completely unaware as to what is happening. We cannot have such a situation, because from the security point of view, it is very dangerous. We need to have people who are in control. Officers who are manning must be in control of the softwares. And that's why we used to have continuous training. But my request to all the committee members and to the Government of India is, we need to do cadre reviews and we need to change the recruitment rules and promotion rules. Like Government of Maharashtra says, after 45 years, even if you do not pass your departmental promotion, departmental exams, you will be given promotion. That means we are willing to, put up with them for the next, anyway till 45 years they have not updated themselves. Till 60 we are still willing to put up with that. That is not acceptable, because that creates a liability, a burden on the system, which actually makes us all very inefficient. So we need to have, if we need to be future ready, we need to see what is required 10 years from now, 20 years from now. Technology can only handle these many issues. But finally, at the end of the day, it's the people who will man the systems and ensure that it really functions and delivers. And if we really need to be that efficient in our service delivery, the structures, the medium which deliver these services must be ready. And that will come only when we are changing the structures, changing the processes, changing the requirements. Because now in the morning also, the Honorable Chief Minister said, minimum government, maximum governance. But if you see the statistics, the number of people in government are all increasing, not to mention those who are as consultants and contractual. So this is actually going against the spirit with which we have to move ahead. So I feel it is important to have technology, use it, and at most in places where there is a rule. Let us not do the routine, monotonous thing which doesn't require application of mind. Where an application of mind is required, where some creativity is required, where some analytical angle is required, that is where officers, government servants must come in. But that which can be done by a machine, let us leave it to the machine. Somebody said in the Kerala presentation, AI, ML is all crap. I don't think so. It is helping to make life easier for us. In fact, I would have loved to see that project also in this 2 days conference. The project on climate resilient agriculture of Maharashtra. I think it's maybe the one of its kind in the country which is end-to-end automated. Everything. There's only one point of data entry, which is the beneficiary himself, and then everything is automated. There is zero public, the officer and beneficiary interface. And in fact, it was my husband who was heading it and he made it. Like I said, he was into all kinds of IT. The VAT when it was developed, the Mahavikas. Then, and again another thing, Ratnagiri, the site, he had uploaded with the NIC itself all the government resolutions onto the website. And then I thought, what a useless and wasteful, way to spend your time. And then that site was never looked at by anybody, hardly anybody bothered to visit it. But it started getting hits when the Mantralaya burned down. That was when it was recognized and given an award. So even now I feel all our SO files, standing order files, when we do the search in any of the websites, it's very difficult to reach a particular OM or a GR. How do we make it more user friendly? I think that's very important. And the POCRA thing, so this manual, at the end of 5 years, they came up with a book to communicate what they had done in these 5 years, saying digitization of agriculture. Now agriculture and digitization would seem very, at poles apart, but not so. Here they actually digitized. In fact, somebody in the morning session said startups need to be encouraged. So there was this SatSure, I think it was the startup which helped in using remote sensing data and clubbing it for agriculture. So all these initiatives are there, but when they put up that booklet, and I read it, it was just some 20-25 pages, it didn't make any sense to me. I said, I don't understand what you have done. So he was very aggrieved, because that is how the technical people think. The way they have, it is from one technical person to another technical person. Whereas it should always be from a technical person to a non-technical person, a layman. So then when I sat, I said, explain to me what this sentence means. And I rewrote the whole thing. So similarly, in the treasury, that's what as a lay IT, illiterate secretary, what I did was explain to me how this process is working. Even Cho was there in some of our deliberations. Can you believe something, a small checkpoint like, if I were to enter the date of an employee, date of birth, and say date of appointment is at the age of 17 years, would the system accept or not? And it was accepting. That means you have not put in sufficient checks. So if the recruitment can only be at 21, the system should automatically reject. There's something wrong with the system. So most of these IT things are intuitive. So if we have a mind block, then it's very difficult to navigate these websites and understand what they can do for us and what they should be doing for us. But if we say, yes, this is for me, so let it speak to me. Let it make life easier for me. So what do we need? So these communications, I think, between the non-technical and technical are very important. And that is what helped me, in fact, at the end of the day, to do almost like 6 IT packages, which now, in fact, the Treasury, even my successors have taken it really forward. And if the Maharashtra Accounts and Treasuries Department is doing so well, all thanks to all these officers, non-technical officers who worked on it day and night. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
Thanks, ma'am. And government receipt accounting system is one of the well-replicated system across the country, prepared by NIC Software Development Unit, Pune. And ma'am was referring about nearly 10 states have replicated it already. Ma'am was referring to a rule after certain years of age, the qualifying exam need not be passed. We were preparing probationary rules for the current set of class 1 officers, and it was interesting to see that the people were the toppers in the Public Service Commission, but the probationary rules say that it is enough to get an average on probation during probation period. So from the topper, within 2 years, we are ready to accept averages. This is our current probation rules. Maybe we have to think, as Madam told, about how to ensure that we are filtering it continuously and we are encouraging efficiency as we go along. Completing that, we will go to the next speaker. Many of the things which are needed by poor as a welfare state, we do provide, whether it is ration, whether it is child welfare, women welfare, Anganwadi services, we do provide. It is provided by the government across the state, and in some cases across the country. It is the same ICDS which runs across the country. Still, when there is a migration intrastate or interstate, the services come to a standstill. And those people who are the poorest of the poor, who had to migrate for the sake of some income, they lose their support system and they degrade in their health parameters. The next speaker is going to speak about the migration tracking system, how it can ensure that the services can be provided. I request Srimati Mitali Sethi, Director Vanamati, to speak about Maharashtra migration tracking system. Idea was given by her, and later on Women and Child Welfare Department of Government of Maharashtra took it over as a state level program. First I invite Srimati Mitali Sethi. Over to you.
Can I have the PPT please? A very good evening to everybody. Maharashtra Migration Tracking System began as a grassroots-led digital solution for us to track migrants when I was posted as an SDM in Dharni subdivision of Amravati district in Maharashtra. And it was later taken up, like Chokalingam sir said, by DWCD, and I have the DWCD team here to co-present this with me today. Next slide. We actually heard migration become the buzzword when there was COVID pandemic, but like all of us know and all of us would have experienced in our postings, rural migration has been happening for decades altogether, especially tribal areas out migration wherever there are sparse agriculture and industrial opportunities. Next slide please. We did not begin migration with the intention of actually working in migration tracking. We began it because we were looking at the consequences that migration would entail. We were looking at the temporal pattern of severe acute malnutrition and moderate acute malnutrition, and I was trying to understand, because where I was posted it was quite infamous for malnourishment. And when we looked at this graph, we were quite shocked. In fact, initially we thought this is a mistake. And then we saw the previous year, and then we saw previous year, and every year we saw almost a 5 to 6 times increase in severe and moderate acute malnutrition numbers. And this was quite contrary to what people used to tell me, because they used to tell me कि बारिश में diarrhea होता है और सर्दी में hypothermia होता है. But April to June were perfectly normal months. Next slide, please. So then, April to June, when we started doing a cultural correlation, we realized that a lot of people who migrate to brick kilns in Dharni were coming back after 6 to 8 months, and a lot of these children, pregnant women, lactating women, had fallen off from normal into SAM and MAM categories. Next slide. So then we started working, next slide please. So then we started looking at how do we address this problem, and this was in 2020 when we were doing this data. So we started making lists of missing children, and we said, do village field functionaries know where are these children going? And most of the villages where we went to, they had something called a village migration register, where an Anganwadi worker or an Asha worker would know to the T where a migrant has gone, for how many days, when would they come back, and for what work have they gone. Next slide. And then once we did all this tabling, we also ran data analytics. Next slide. We started classifying also on the basis of nutritional status, and also on the basis of where have people gone, for what work have they gone. And I remember when we were doing meetings with our divisional commissioner, he asked these questions that कौन सी आंगनवाड़ी में से सबसे ज़्यादा लोग जाते हैं, and we did not have an answer. And then he said, can you give MREGS work to these people and prevent distress-driven migration? But we did not have microdata to tell them that where should we really target MREGS, because I had 500 villages in my hand, and at that point, of course, giving blanket work to people was one thing, but micro-targeting was another. Next slide. Next. So we also undertook extensive field visits, and because this was being done in the middle of the migration season, we started going and meeting the families of migrant families where they were in the brick kilns. Next slide. And I remember the first question that I asked when I entered my first brick kiln. I asked this manager that यहाँ पे कितने बच्चे हैं, and he said कि हम बच्चे नहीं गिनते क्योंकि वो यहाँ पे काम नहीं करते. So there was this invisible section that was not being counted because they were not useful. I met a 9-month-old who was due for his vaccination, but because he was there for 3 months, he was not due when he left the source, and he was still to be here for 3 more months, so he was not going to be due, and by the time he went back, he would be overdue for his vaccination. The third thing that I realized was that the answer to the question of are you taking your children to Anganwadis, are you going to PHCs for vaccination, was no, no and no. For every question that I asked, okay, did you take PDS or did you take your child to Anganwadi? So I realized that probably theoretically our institutions are portable. If a beneficiary goes to an Anganwadi and asks for a service, they would not deny it. But then probably people are not going. And because I was posted in an area which was a Korku-speaking tribal population going for manual labor into a predominantly Marathi belt, the whole bargain of power made sense. And I realized why this was not happening. And the last thing I realized, next slide, was that when we started talking to field functionaries, they said that we are eager to provide services, but we don't know where our beneficiary is coming, and so there's nothing we can do because brick kilns were a kilometer away from the mainland. And so, next slide, we did migration tracking system to basically with the fundamental intent of connecting source with destination and saying that source and destination should interact and not constantly say that we don't know what is happening at the other end. So at the source, next slide, when there is registration of X who wants to go from A to B and is registered at source, the data also auto-migrates to B, which is the destination, and they know beforehand that this migrant is coming to me. Next slide. So at destination, when they log in, next slide. Next slide. Can you please just press thrice? So when the destination finds a beneficiary, they also have 3 options where they can either accept a beneficiary or say that I did not find this beneficiary, or say that this beneficiary was here for a particular number of time and has now gone back. Everything that the destination does is reflected again into the source. So there's one beneficiary which is actually shuttling between source and destination, and they know what is happening along with the communication details. And when we did this, we piloted in 6 different districts, 5 of which were tribal. And we also gave district helpline numbers where people could call for grievance redressal at that time. After we did that, after we finished the pilot, this year DWCD has made it live across the state. And it was made live only in November 22. Next slide, please. Everything that the destination does is color coded. And then next slide. There are also options for adding a migrant if the migrant goes to a third place, or if the migrant comes back, or if the migrant is not found. And there's also a provision where migrant is not registered at the source but is found only at the destination, and the destination can add that particular beneficiary. Next slide. Now, Jyotkar sir is here from DWCD and he would also come and speak, and I just wanted to point out one or two things that I really think makes MTS valuable. Number one, it was a bottom-up system where we actually sat with field functionaries, and even today in MTS there is this provision where whenever a field functionary realizes that there is something wrong with the system, they have an option to raise an issue, take a screenshot, and the backend team immediately rectifies it. The second thing is MTS has a nutrition calculator and a vaccination calendar integrated within itself. So the Anganwadi workers do not need to mention SAM, MAM, SUW. The website automatically calculates. And there's a vaccination calendar where we've already integrated at what time what vaccination needs to be given to a child or a pregnant woman. The last thing that I wanted to mention is very important. In the last year when we did pilots in 6 districts, there's now a time where we can actually mention in a district like Nandurbar which Gram Panchayats actually have the highest out-migration happening from their district, so that the district collector or the district administration can actually microplan prevention of distress-driven migration. Next slide. There are still a lot of questions that we're still asking. Next slide. A lot of them, like Rajesh sir was talking about Swanidhi, and I was just thinking that, if MTS provides a platform for multiple things to be onboarded onto it. So can we, CS sir and Sonic ma'am is here, and they've now taken this initiative of onboarding education and health onto MTS, where we have a template and can we provide services across the board. And the way we look at migration tracking can either be saying that education, health and ICDS should independently have softwares which provide migration tracking into their own softwares, or we say that we have a platform for migration tracking where all services can be onboarded. It's a continuous discussion. I don't know what is it that would be the best thing to do, and we are still navigating a lot of issues. It's only been 1.5 years that we've started working into this, and migration has been a zigzag where people are moving across and between places, and we've had to figure out how do we increase enrollment of people and provide more services to more people, as in how we keep understanding this whole thing. I will stop here and I will invite Jyotkar sir to please speak about the DWCD perspective. Thank you so much.
Thank you, madam. Mitali madam has already set the context, and it was the documentation like 5-6 districts which prompted some database evidence. And then COVID pandemic, it created vulnerability which was falling more on the women, and that is how feminization of vulnerability, which drawn the Department of Women and Child Development Department to have some resolute to see that whether we can have some solution to see that we can institutionalize the enrollment vis-a-vis we can also see that portability of services both at destination as well as the source, as Mithali madam tried to explain you the schema. Slide. Just. Yeah. Just one video was there, half a minute. So the issue of feminization of vulnerability, that was very next slide, please. So this is how the WCD came into picture. Next slide, please. The feminization of vulnerability, that was very keen, and the next slide will precisely explain what I mean by that. Next slide, please. And just start it, please.
मी आता सध्या सांगली जिल्ह्यामध्ये आहे. ही माऊली धुळ्यावरून आली. ज्यावेळेला माऊली इथं आली त्यावेळेला माऊलीच्या पोटामध्ये हे बाळ होतं, म्हणजे जवळजवळ 9 महिन्याचं बाळ होतं हे. आणि या माऊलीनं या बाळाला इथंच जन्म दिला. 9 महिन्याचं बाळ पोटात असताना सुद्धा ही माऊली काम करत होती. आणि ज्या वेळेला बाळाला जन्म दिला फक्त 6-7 तास तिने हिच्या झोपडीमध्ये आराम केला. आणि आराम केल्यानंतर ही माऊली दुसऱ्या दिवशी सकाळी 1 दिवसाच्या बाळाला घेऊन या ऊसामध्ये आली, या फळामध्ये आली, ऊस तोडते. आता तिचं बाळ 30 दिवसाचं आहे, अवघं 30 दिवसाचं आहे. बाळाचा बाबा नाही आला, बाळाचा बाबा गावीच आहे, फिरतोय आणि ही माऊली मेहनत करते.
नेक्स्ट स्लाइड प्लीज.
मी आता त्या सांगली जिल्ह्यामध्ये आहे. ही माऊली धुळ्यावरून आली.
So the objective was to enroll the potential beneficiaries at source, and also those beneficiaries who have skipped the potential enrollment in the source can be enrolled in the destination also. That was a two-pronged approach which MahaMTS took, and it envisaged ICDS services as well as ICPS services protection. Next slide please. So these are the key definitions, and we were only enrolling the beneficiaries of WCD department only. So earning male member is out of our enrollment. Next slide please. So we wanted to see that the data capture burden of the Anganwadi Sevika is not overburdened. So this was the schema. Mitali madam has tried to explain that. And we used to disable the services from the source when the actually migration takes place, and it used to get enabled at the destination. This was the schema, and the reverse was true. When the migrant returns to the source after seasonal period, then it was disabled there and it was enabled at the source. That was the schema. Next slide please. Next slide. It was shown by Mitali madam. Next slide. And this is the migration corridor we could establish in the pilot stage. These are the curvilinear lines which shows 69% migration was intrastate, and interstate was 31%. Next slide please. So this was the pilot district wise intrastate, interstate and intra-district migration. Next slide please. And this was the reasons why they are migrating. Brick cleans in some districts, it was sugarcane cutting in some districts and so forth. Next slide please. This was the, we can skip that. This was the dashboard, 39,000. This was the created under the MTS. We can skip this. Next slide please. Next slide please. While expanding the MTS to the statewide, from we have made it mobile based because Anganwadi Sevika is become a module of the ocean tracker of MWCD, and that will have two benefits. One, it will encompass the interstate migration also, and it will be an element of sustainability. Thank you very much.
Thanks for both of you putting it together. One wonders, had this come just before start of COVID, what benefit we would have got at the national level. Next speaker is on using AI for quality inspection for roads. One day I heard someone speaking like this. In the current transport system in our country, we have first-class cars, second-class roads, and third-class drivers. Now our next speaker is going to speak about how to ensure our second-class roads to become first-class roads, especially in the rural areas. We know the national highways as well as the state highways are much better, but the MDRs, major district roads and the rural roads are still a problem. I request Karthikeyan, who is an assistant collector in Yavatmal, to speak on AI-based road quality inspection system.
Thank you, Mitali ma'am. A very pleasant evening, everybody. At the outset, I would like to thank DARPG and AROM for giving me this opportunity to present my work in front of such a distinguished chair, panelists and audience. I am Karthikeyan, Officer of Indian Administrative Service, born to Maharashtra cadre. And I am here to present my work IRA, Artificial Intelligence Based Road Quality Assessment, which I built using with the help of TCS and State Informatics Office Maharashtra. Next slide, please. This is how I have structured my presentation. First, I'll talk about the ground realities that warranted my innovation. The second, I would like to talk about the working of IRA. The third, how we went about building the architecture. And the fourth is, of course, the future of IRA. Next slide, please. Roads. Since time immemorial, the roads have always been the fulcrum of development. It is, in fact, the platter on which the fruits of development are given. But the common sight, the common complaint of a common man is the cracks on a newly built road, and the next is the roads getting eroded in a single spell of rain, improper sloping and leveling that results in waterlogging, which is in fact harmful for the metallic roads, and the common man does not have the wherewithal and the knowledge to check the quality of the road and hold the contractors accountable. Hence, the contractors go scot-free. So, with basic, next slide, please. So, upon inspection and discussion and little bit of research, I found three major problems. The first is layering. Every road has a set of layers. For example, first we put 80 mm stones. On that we put murum. Again we put 40 mm roads. Again we put murum. And then over the top we put 20 mm stones. Most of the time these layers are missing or not in the proportion they have to be. So that was the first problem. The second problem is compaction. Compaction is very important for filling the voids between the roads, because if compaction is not done properly, the roads get worn away. And many a times compaction is not done properly or it's inadequate. That was the second problem. And the third problem is testing labs. In many of the districts we have a maximum 1 or 2 testing labs. And many a times I found that there is a collusion between contractors and the testing lab officials to give a positive report. So hence I wanted to build a robust, person agnostic, real-time and decentralized solution, and hence we built IRA. Next slide, please. So let me introduce you to IRA. And before I delve deeper into the architecture, I would like to demonstrate how IRA works at its mature stage. Next slide, please. IRA is based on computer vision. It has 2 components. The first is user interface and second is AI trained cloud engine. Next slide, please. So any quality control inspector or any site engineer or any supervisor, it could be an SDM, it could be a CEO Zilla Parishad, it could be a district collector, can use this IRA app to take predetermined number of pictures at random locations, and these predetermined number of pictures will then be sent to AI trained cloud engine. Next slide, please. It will be sent to this AI cloud. So AI cloud will analyze these pictures using an algorithm about which I will be talking a little later. Next slide, please. And this AI engine will give out 3 things, or rather 4 things. The first is visible quality of the road. The second thing is slope of the particular section. The third thing is layering. If a particular layering is there or not, or it is in the proportion it has to be there or not. And the fourth is compaction, if it is done properly or not. These are the 4 things that will be given out by IRA app. So first of all, next slide please. Before building the architecture, we wanted to see if it is AA compatible. Gartner's hype cycle says that whenever a new technology is introduced, everybody would want to play with the technology, reducing the efficacy of the technology. And the technology will reach a stage where it will mature itself. So first we wanted to see if it is AA possible or not. The golden rule is that if a human expert can do it visibly, the AI can do it 10 times better or 20 times better or multifolds better. I would like to here give a small example. So what normally happens is, after putting that 80 mm stone, we put murum on top of that and we compact it. So the 80 mm becomes 60 mm. So if a site engineer, just by looking at it, if it is 16 millimeter, he will be able to tell if the 80 mm stone has been put or not, if the murum has been put or not, and if it has been compacted properly or not. So this is just by visibly he can tell. So it was very much doable. The next slide, please. So to build any AI engine, basically we have 4 steps: data collection, annotation, training the data, and data execution. So next slide, please. Data collection is crucial, as success of AI engine basically depends on the kind of data we collect, and so we wanted to make sure that we collect data from various parameters. So we collected data from all weather data, roads on all weather data is, in our case, it's pictures. So all weather data of different quality. Next slide, please. Data of various angles, road from various angles. We also used random to shuffle the data and OpenCV to convert it into grayscale. And next slide, please. The next step would be data annotation. Data annotation would refer to ascribing characteristic to the data. It is like teaching to a newborn who is a mother, who is a father, what is a fire, what is a water. So in our case, from the data, that is the picture, we wanted to annote what is a road, what is a lane, what is a crack. Even in cracks, there are different types of cracks. There is a alligator crack, there is a wear, there is a subsidence, there is a tear. So this is data annotation. The next slide, please. So this is annotation basically. Next slide, please. So the next is data training. In first step we gave a characteristic to the data. Taking the example, now we will be teaching the newborn kid what is an angry face of a mother, what is a happy face of a father, what happens if you touch the fire. So that in that way we train the data as to what is the width of the crack. What is, how much of crack is there, and what is subsident, if a particular layer is there or not, if the compaction has been done or not. So this is data training. So for data training, basically we use convolutional neural network, and we built 4 algorithms. Next slide, please. The first algorithm is acceptability algorithm. In acceptability algorithm, what we did is to accept the particular image or to reject the particular image. So that we built using acceptability algorithm. The second is detection algorithm to detect attributes in the particular data. For example, roads, cracks, and different types of cracks, lane, etc. is detection algorithm. Third is classification algorithm to classify the attributes into various parameters. For example, width of the road, size of the pothole, etc. And the finally is a slope algorithm. So this, next slide please. So this will be executed and it will be shown using IRA app. So next slide please. So this I feel could be a potential game changer as it could result in true empowerment, and the quality of roads could be checked on real-time basis, and people can use to hold the contractors liable in the contract liability period. We can also use IRA to classify and analyze the existing roads using GPS technology also, and I feel in near future with IRA every common man will have state-of-the-art roads through preventive maintenance as against ad hoc maintenance that it is currently right now. Next slide please. In future, we are also planning to build a drone component in this, where we will be able to analyze the real-time basis the road making of the road and to intervene on real-time basis. So that is IRA towards myriads of possibilities. Next slide, please. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Karthikeyan. Thanks for taking us forward to a new age. Maybe PWD of Maharashtra as well as I'll request DARPG to take it up with Indian Roads Congress. If it is a feasible proposition, they should make it as an application for the country. We will go to the next speaker. We have many reports on education. Annual Status of Education Report, National Assessment Survey, State Assessment Survey, District Assessment Survey. All these surveys point to the problem. But the solution, unfortunately, unlike other departments, is not uniform. We have to find out which student is lagging behind, which student needs support in which subject, etc. This is what is looked into by Srimati Ashima Mittal, CEO Nashik, through FL and Ved application, functional literacy and numeracy application. I request Ashima to present her paper.
Could you please start the PPT? A very good evening to one and all. My name is Ashima Mittal. I am CEO Zilla Parishad Nashik.
I am thankful to Sonic ma'am and the entire organization committee for giving me an opportunity to present the FLN WADE application to you. We all work for the growth and development of India, and none of us can deny that education remains to be one of the most important pillars for growth of our nation. And for that, to ensure that the primary education is also qualitative, we have almost cracked the enrollment part in the primary education, but we are still yet to crack the quality part of it. When I was posted in as SDM Dahanu and Project Officer ITDP in Dahanu, which is primarily a tribal area of having tribal residential schools, I realized that the quality of education was so poor that class 10 students were finding it difficult to do basic addition, basic reading, and that was a very turning moment for me when I started talking to senior officers in the government who have worked in education. We developed a methodology where we started tracking the data of learning outcomes through manual processes and through Excel sheets. Next slide, please. So this is the flow of presentation for today. Next slide. Although the government has recently brought out the National Education Policy and the Nipun Bharat Abhiyan, which wants to ensure that every child is FLN ready, that is able to do the basic reading and is able to do the basic numeracy by class 3. But the ASAR reports, which comes every 2 yearly, shows that the trend is actually going down. If we can see that only 38.1% students in class 1 are able to do division, and class 3 students, if we see, only 18% are able to do subtraction, which in a private school children start doing in first class itself. So there is a major gap, which is learning gap, which we need to fill. And for that, next slide. For that, we have developed a assessment methodology and a tracking mechanism. So there is also one option that we track the data manually. But if we track manually, then it will be limited. It will be a data in silos. We cannot analyze at the school level, at the block level, at various levels. So we thought of digitizing the data and we created the application. Next slide. Apart from this application, we say that tracking the learning outcomes will not only solve the problem. Apart from tracking, there are other interventions need to be taken, like peer learning, promoting teachers as facilitators, challenging the students. So along with that, we launched the application, next slide, to create effective public schools providing quality education. So these are some of the features of the app, which I will take you through in the upcoming slides. So we track the children's learning outcomes along with their health profile. That is one of the features we have included here. Every child's profile is being created in the government school along with their health profile, and we can also see the linkages. If the child is having some learning disability, so we can find that through this app, because that child will not progress like other children in the class. Next slide, please. These are the 4 logins that will be there in the app. The first login is of the teacher's login, that is primarily used for doing the assessment of the children using the methodology and for entering the data. The second is the school login, which is a HR management portal, which can map the teachers with the classes and with the students. And one more feature of this app is that there is no data entry required, no additional data entry. All the state governments are having portals already developed with school registration, children registration. So we just downloaded the data from there and uploaded here. So it was just without any data entry. That is one of the features. The third login is admin login, which is a login at a block level, or for me it was a project officer login, and I could see the profile of all my children studying in the schools, and I could analyze them. And the fourth login is a doctor's login. So every school was given a doctor's login, because in schools as of now several institutions come and check the students, but the medical profiling history is not maintained. Next slide. So this, I will take you through the teacher's interface briefly. The first shows the teacher's dashboard, which has assessment, student info and rewards. As we can see, as soon as the teacher clicks the assessment, they can select the name of the student in their class. These are the different logins, like if the child is able to read the word or not. If yes, then the teacher can click that. If the child is able to read a complete sentence, then the teacher can click that. And immediately after clicking that, the teacher just has to press a submit button and it is done. It is a 1-second job and the data is entered. These are the students' detail which the teacher can see in the student info login. Teacher can also see the health profile of every student. So a teacher can basically analyze if there are any health issues which are impeding the learning outcomes in the class. So as we can see in the third row, the student details, the Karishma Bhoi's profile has been shown to you. Her Saral ID is mentioned, her class is mentioned, her assessment details. So in Marathi reading, she can read paragraph with average accuracy. In Marathi writing, she can read paragraph, and she has just started Marathi writing. So she has just started writing paragraphs. Similarly, in mathematics, she can do only addition as of now. The next slide is the health card, which measures the height, weight, BMI. So sickle cell anemia is very common in tribal areas. So we try to track the sickle cell anemia problem. And finally, we can see the history of assessment also. It's not that we can just see the present situation, we can see the history. So as we can see the improvement in her performance, in August, 21st August, she was at initial stage. Just not able to read the basics, almost there. Just 3-star means she's almost completed that stage. Then in September she entered the word stage, 2-star, then 3-star, then she entered sentence in November, then December sentence full, and then January she entered the paragraph. So the entire history can be tracked and child-specific interventions can be done. Next slide. This is the assessment levels as I mentioned earlier, and in each level we have 3 sub-levels, 3 stars. So as soon as a child covers different levels, a new star is added to their profile. Next. This is the admin login wherein assessment can be seen at multiple levels. So this is the overall assessment which shows the mathematics data of 22,000 students. Out of 22,000, I can see that 1,428 are at initial level and so on. And this is also one system we developed to give feedback to the teachers. So admin can give feedback saying you have done a good job, you need to work on this area, and so on and so forth. Next. We can see the school-wise performance. In Ambesari Ashram Shala, we had so many students totally. What is the performance? Class-wise in Tava Ashram Shala 7A, the performance of 56 students studying in this class can be seen. So this is teacher-wise performance also can be seen. For a particular teacher, Kanchan Dilip Satvi, 10th A, she's teaching 52 students. So exactly we can see the performance and plan interventions. Next slide. So this is the overview of the health that we can see at the admin level. I can see that this is a demo data that we have developed for the presentation to show the different variations. So the BMI of 282 students is not right. They are lower than what is required. We can see the critical health issues, sickle cell disease issues, hemoglobin issues. This is profile of one of the student. We can see that each child is categorized into 3, red, green and yellow, depending on their health status. So if there is any child in the red, that is flagged and that can be sent to PHC for continuous checkup. Next slide. This is the admin dashboard where we can rank schools. So when we rank schools, one of our school topped it, which is shown in green color, others are in yellow, some are in red. Next slide. In the admin dashboard, we can also see the monitoring, how many teachers entered the data, how many teachers are still pending for better monitoring. So apart from, after the data is entered, there are much more things to be done like peer learning. So once in a class of 30, I know that 2 students are at paragraph level and 2 students are way below at initial level. So I can make them sit together in a pair, in a group of 4, in a group of 2, and then the activities can be given. So this way we realized that students were learning much more faster. So these were some other interventions done along with the data collection. Next. The support, the benefit of the application was felt by different stakeholders. So the teachers told me, many teachers came and told me that we never knew that in our class this is the variation in the learning outcomes because they are really not checked by most of the teachers. For the parents, we have designed a QR code system. So every report card of the child will have a QR code. Parents can also track their progress and this will bring transparency in the system. For the administration, we can do ranking of the schools, we can plan interventions. For the students, we can do level-wise activities which is mentioned in the National Education Policy, level-wise learning. Students also, when they interact with each other, do peer learning. It develops their confidence, their communication skills and their collaboration skills, which we have felt changed significantly in the process. Next. So this is the data that we did a pilot in 2022. This is a very recent thing that started. So we did a pilot in 2022 from January to March. In 3 months itself, we saw that the results were really amazing in 73% drop in students who could not read. So this child has spent already 5 years in the system at the initial level, not being able to read anything. And in the 3 months after planned interventions were done, the child started reading. So this kind of change we saw, as you can see the red part coming down and the green parts, which is the highest levels are increasing. Next slide. So again, second pilot was done from June to August. There also 20 teachers were selected, 1188 students were selected, and we saw a similar trend where students who could not read started doing that, and students started doing division very fast. Next slide. This is a roadmap for the future. We are now we are now creating an app system where assessment will be done in the phone itself. A system will ask some questions, 10 to 15 questions from every child, and as per the response, it will be automatically recorded. Then health card, we are planning to make it much more comprehensive. We are scaling this to the Zilla Parishad schools of Nashik now. And also we are planning to include social, economic, emotional learning in the application going forward, because the Nipun Bharat Abhiyan says that every state government and union territory has to collect the data from the government schools and they have to analyze it. So as per the mandate, this application we will be taking forward in our other districts, and especially in Nashik right now. So thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it, and look forward to your feedback.
Thanks, Ashima. Thanks for an wonderful presentation on the most important issue. The demographic dividend of the country can be reaped only if our children become educated and skilled. One day I was sitting with my banking colleague. Some of us are fortunate enough to purchase a property, and not so fortunate experience of getting into a sub-registrar office to register the deed. It takes half an hour to half a day. The banking colleague told that, why are you making such a fuss of purchasing a property? What is the value of that? I said, maybe 1 crore, maybe 2 crores, 50 lakhs. Why you want to check all your biometrics, thumb impression, signature, personal presence? We transfer 50 crores in an OTP. 50 crores in an OTP. And you are for 1 crore or 50 lakh of properties, you make such a tamasha. So Maharashtra took the lead of amending the Registration Act as applicable to state of Maharashtra, that identification and signature for the purpose of registration can be done online, and it is the only state which is doing registration online. By sitting at home, you can do your live-on license in Maharashtra. To speak about that, Mr. Shravan Hardikar is coming over.
Thank you, sir. Honorable Chair, all the dignitaries present. Chokalingam sir himself is the originator of the concept, and we must give him a big round of applause for original work. Maharashtra has been a pioneer in the field of registration. We are the first state which started the process of registrations by use of computers. And it was the year in 2002 when the current ACS, Dr. Nitin Karir, who was then the IGR, started the system called Sarita. When Sir was IGR in 2012, it was upgraded to become internet-based Sarita, and now we are in the age of actual faceless online e-registrations, which was initiated by Honorable Chokalingam Sir. I'll briefly run you through what we have done. Next slide, please. There is a small video. You can start this video. It's an experience of a couple who has completed their registration cycle. Can you please run it?
Okay, I'm Nilesh. We just did the e-registration, completed all the formalities. I'm really happy. It was very quick, very convenient, and Bharat was really cooperative, and he was very quick and very prompt. I know he has traveled whole night and come all the way from Pune to Bangalore, but it was really wonderful. I really enjoyed this whole process, and I think this is going to be a good experience for all of the buyers who probably want to.
So this is the couple who has done the registration of an agreement to sale of a first sale of flat, sitting in their home in Bangalore.
A lot of our time. So it's better. I think I really enjoyed that's the main thing. And Bharat, what he did was really a wonderful job. came on time, spot on
He mentions
time.
person called Bharat. Bharat is not a sub-registrar who has gone to his house in Bangalore, but in fact he is a person employed by the developer, the builder, who has facilitated this transaction.
Acknowledge the call that Priya did to confirm whether the registration is done or not. So that's really wonderful. I mean, the whole team is really doing a great job. Thank you.
Next slide. So basically what we have done is an experience of registration has been transformed. Anybody who has done the registration may be recollecting how it is rush. Rush is there, you have to wait for your turn to come. So basically our department is entrusted with registering of the documents pertaining to transfer of property. Then we are governed by the Registration Act and the Stamp Act, and we are the ones who collect the highest revenue in the country for the registration and stamps department, and the second highest revenue for the state of Maharashtra, roughly around 35,000 crores. And with this kind of a thing, the people who are paying us are not getting any service. They are wasting a lot of their time in just waiting for a 5-minute process of actually doing that Panjikaran or registry in the office. And why not start with something by taking the services at their doorstep? So we started off with an amendment, as sir rightly said, that with the advent of Aadhaar is the game changer. Aadhaar is the thing which allows you to go ahead without being present in front of the sub-registrar to identify the person who is present. Now the Aadhaar is the service which identifies the person. We waive off the presence of the witnesses to identify the person and actual presence of the person in the office. Next. So these are the two aspects of registration which is done online or faceless or e-registration as we call it. There is a builder side intervention, and on the right hand side there is a processes that happen at the sub-registrar side or in our back office. Now what developer has to do, how it is changed from the leave-in license which we started in 2014. Leave-in license was a fixed template based e-registration. So the challenge that time was to do away with the physical presence in our office. It was facilitated by Aadhaar. But we had to work with a fixed template, and the problem with agreement to sale or any other templates is that every builder or every lawyer generates his own document, and it is not similar. The two developers will have totally different documents, their clauses will be different, and the content thereof is going to be different. So the challenge was how to get rid of this. So what we simply did was the introduction of a form and template builder platform, and this is what is the game changer. We are allowing the developer to build his own form, build his own template, get it checked once by the joint district registrar, and then on he can go on registering the entire process at his office. Now second big thing that is happening here is that this is an online execution of a document. Now this is an innovation. Up till now we have never been doing digital document execution for the transfer of property documents. Mind well, this is the year. In November, Government of India IT department has specifically allowed the digital execution of the transfer of property documents, but Maharashtra has been doing this since 2014 on a voluntary basis. So this is a game changer. Now, if you recollect, whatever registration that you have done, you have executed by using your own signature. आपने उसके ऊपर एक थप्पा भी लगाया, अंगूठे का निशान भी लगाया, and this is how we identify the document as authentic document. But in this process, there is a complete digital document execution happening. There is no stamp, there is no signature. It is purely done through biometric process. Then once the document is done, it is pushed, it is identified by using Aadhaar biometric and then sent to the backend. Backend then approves it by matching the person's photograph taken at the time of registration and the demographic information sent from Aadhaar server, checks whether the stamp duty has been paid properly and execution has been done, and then applies his own digital signature. This is how the entire registration process is completed. On the next working day, that is the latest, we are sending back the registered document. The party then prints out the document. Now then came the problem because agreement to sale of a flat is a major document and it's a document of title of sorts. And the bankers rely on the impounding of that title document, keeping it in their possession, and then they lend you the loan or the first loan on the purchase of that flat. So the bankers asked us a question, this is a digitally executed document, where is the signature? If there is no signature, which is an original document, somebody will print multiple sets of document and pick up multiple loans on the same document. So a small innovation was brought in that sir would be the originator of that instrument also. It is called as eSBTR, is a form of a stamp that we started in Maharashtra, or any other stamp paper which is unique, which has a unique identification number, is the one which is affixed as the front page of that printout that they have taken. Now the document printout which is affixed with the uniquely identified stamp becomes the original document. And if any banker wants to verify whether there is no tampering or the terms and conditions or any words of the document are not changed, there is an original document which is stored online which can be verified for the checking of the originality of the content, and that is how the process has been done. Now everybody keeps on asking, if somebody goes online and changes the original text of the document, what are you going to do next? The next stage that we are doing is storing these documents on with the help of a blockchain by converting them into a hash, and a hash verification being done at every stage whenever anybody wants to verify whether it has been tampered or not. So this is how the entire process has been streamlined. You don't have to come to our office. You can simply complete the process sitting at the developer's office or sitting in your home, complete the transaction by executing it digitally, paying the stamp duty online, completing the registration process of your side, sitting there, and then getting the document on the next day. Now the developers are selling this as their USP, that you don't have to come to our office, you don't have to go and spend the whole day waiting for your turn in the sub-registrar office and complete your registration cycle sitting in our office. They are bringing them to their office, they are giving them nice cup of coffee, chai, nashta, and then making sure that they want to complete their transaction on a muhurat time. 1:02 को ही मेरे को आज का मुहूर्त है और आज मेरे को रजिस्ट्री करानी है, वो पंजीकरण उसी मुहूर्त पे दिन, उसी संडे, सैटरडे, anywhere sitting it can be completed. Next. These are the types of document we have started. This is what the rush was. Now next, this is the experience that is happening. Next slide. This is how it is being done. Currently, almost 170 builders are already online. We have already completed roughly 4 million documents in leave-in license. This year we have started with 10,000 odd documents on agreement to sale, but we intend to go to 20% documents of agreement to sale of a first sale of flat by the end of this year, and within next 3 years we intend to complete 80% of agreement to sale of a first sale of flat sitting at home or sitting in the developer's office. Now, good thing that has happened is, as I said, I am just closing down my presentation. MeitY has notified that digital execution of transfer of property documents is now allowed. This is going to pave way to next round of documents, that is mortgages, simple mortgages which are being executed in the banks. The bankers also have to come to our sub-registrar office to execute the mortgage deed. Now that can be completed and executed sitting in any branch. Notice of intimation of a equitable mortgage will be completed sitting in the bank. People don't have to come, they are already filing them, but it will be completed in a single process. And the time is not ahead that we shed our own baggage, that any kind of a document can be uploaded anywhere, checked online for the correct payment of stamp duty, and practically executed online, sitting in home in a faceless manner without coming to our office. The 2-3 things that have happened, agreement to sale is a very mundane process, because the document of one particular builder who is selling 50 odd flats is not going to change. It's the first document which the sub-registrar is checking. Every other time it's only a repetitive process, time consuming process. It's only a low hanging fruit which keeps the sub-registrar busy, and it only adds volume in our office. As this goes away, the sub-registrar is able to give more time to other types of transaction in a systematic manner. Most importantly, the corruption, the transparency, the corruption element has gone down because now it is faceless. The registering parties don't have to appear before our officers, sub-registrars, and now the next stage is that they are going to get randomized, because who is now, which sub-registrar sitting at the back office is going to clear this is also not going to be known. So this is going to be truly faceless service, and in future we will be able to extend this kind of a service to most other kinds of transaction as and when we become legally as well as in our own mindsets ready for that change. Thank you.
Good evening, and thanks to my colleagues as to how Maharashtra made this Maha and mega contribution to e-governance in the country, and let us take this lead further and make Maharashtra great as well as the country great. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for this wonderful session. Sir and all the panelists, I request you all to be here for some time, and may I call upon stage Srimati Nidhi Chaudhary, District Collector, Mumbai Suburban District, to felicitate the chairperson and all the panelists. Srimati Nidhi Chaudhary ji, District Collector, Mumbai Suburban District. The chairperson, Shri S. Chokalingam sir. Mitali Sethi, Director, Vanamati. Ashima Mittal, CEO, Nashik. Radhika Rastogi, Joint Director, Lal Bahadur Shastri, National Academy of Administration, Mussoorie, Uttarakhand. Shri Kartikeyan, Assistant Collector, Pusat Sub-Division, Yavatmal. Shri Shravan Hardikar, IGR, Department of Registration. Thank you very much. Can we have a group photo with Nidhi ma'am?
Come closer.
This was the last session of day 1, but I request, यहाँ पर बहुत सारे secretary level के officers हैं. I am going to request them to please come on the stage one by one, and we would like to hear your experience of this regional level conference. Thank you very much.
So my humble request, there are a lot of secretary level officers here in the room. So we would request all of you to please come here on the stage and share your experiences on e-governance. This is a wonderful opportunity for us to exchange our thoughts and ideas, and we can all benefit from each other. Please. So I would request those who are here to come.
I know Chandra Prakash Verma.
He was my sub-divisional collector, collector.
Okay, okay. Yeah. He's in Simla, no?
May I request Shri Ravindra Naik ji and Praveen Kumar ji, can we have you on stage, sir?
उधर है ना,
ये भी रखो सामने आगे आगे
I request Ravindra Naik ji and Praveen Kumar ji. This is a humble request that you please come on stage, and we would like to listen to the experience you had of this conference.
Sir, as experiences with regard to UP, sir, so e-governance. Sir, with regard to e-governance in UP, we had many achievements. As morning, e-Mitra morning Khanij Mitra has it's a successfully launched, and PM award has been awarded for that. And we have with regard to the not only e-governance, sir, and many other innovative ODOP. UP has one district, one product. We had a lot of industrial MSME, a lot of development in MSME products have taken place. And with regard to this e-governance, sir, and the automation, office automation, the entire filing system is 90% files in secretariat is through e-office, and the other delayering processes also in many departments has been already taken place, sir. And with regard to the directorates also, most of the directorates have been the e-automation has taken place. All e-filing system is already being taken place. And with e-initiatives, with regard to revenue collections, all treasury systems, just Radhika she has given presentation. So the treasuries, the entire revenue receipts, that is also it is very much in place in UP. And this registration little long way to go with regard to the online registration. Still still half of the systems, the online slot booking is there in UP, but online registration yet to be take place. That need to adapt the Maharashtra model. So that is long way to go. And the sales tax, GST, everything all we have adapted. The most of the all departments we have all high level of e-automation, sir. And so with this, but see, if anything, if wants somebody any specific with regard to UP, anybody is eager to know about e-governance or any other issues, just they can interact. Anybody can interact. Anybody can raise queries, please. Sir. Achha, DGGI, we are just, sir, with sir's direction and IIPS, sir, Tripathi sir's, DG sir's direction, we are about to, in next, within 10 to 15 days, sir, we are going to publish DGGI, District Good Governance Index, UP, sir. And we will be the second after Jammu and Kashmir, sir, and we will be the second, we are going to publish, sir. And so many new things are coming up, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your kind words.
Just one line. Okay, just one line.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Let me introduce myself. I am Umanundu Dule. I am Secretary to Government of Assam, Department of Information and Public Relations. During the last 1 year, Government of Assam has taken a very important initiative that is we call it Sadbhavana. And that is disposal of all old files, public redressal. That has been done, and our complete secretariat is e-office. We do not have any papers in our office. And now our next step is to bring it to the level of director level and the commissionerate level, then to the district level, then to the block or circle level. So this is one of the most important initiatives that has been taken by Government of Assam. And actually I have learned since we are far off from the mainland, many things we are trying to learn from the developed states like Maharashtra, Karnataka. I am sure that by joining this conference, I'll be able to take away something for our state. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Now I request Dr. Abhishek Jain, Secretary, IT Education, Technical Education, Himachal Pradesh. Dr. Abhishek Jain.
Good evening to all. Like other states, Himachal Pradesh, which is a North Indian state known for inclusive development and acclaimed by top economists, including Amartya Sen, for sustainable inclusive development, e-governance and digital transformation is not just a buzzword but a way of life. Apart from the so many initiatives which all other states have also done, I'd like to highlight two. One is using drones for improving governance. So in Himachal, in addition to other things, we have introduced the governance reforms using drones. We organized drone Mahotsav and Melas. We promoted a drone enabling policy. We have drone flying training schools which we impart in our technical education department institutions, and we are training our even state government officers in the use of drones for improving governance and service delivery, especially at the cutting edge level of administration. We have used drones for delivery of medicines in the far-flung areas of Kinnaur, Chamba and Lahaul Spiti, which are at a height of more than 10,000 feet and are always difficult to reach, especially during the winter season. Additionally, we have the e-cabinet, and Himachal was one of the first state to have completely paperless Vidhan Sabha or the state legislatures. We have e-Vidhan Sabha. And we are thinking for the use of these digital technologies. The vision is कि एक गांव में बैठा हुआ साधारण आदमी जिसको ज़्यादा डिजिटल नॉलेज नहीं है, जिसको इंग्लिश ज़्यादा नहीं आती है, जो ज़्यादा ऐप सेवी नहीं है, वो भी डिजिटल टेक्नोलॉजीज़ को ईजिली यूज़ कर पाए और अपने जीवन के सुधार को एंश्योर कर पाए. So we want to build a simple systems which even because 90% population, Himachal is the most, the least urbanized state in the country with only 10% population living in urban areas. So we want to ensure that the benefit of this digital transformation and the emerging technologies reaches each and every person who is sitting in the homes. And the system should be so simple, like Google or Amazon. I feel why they are so popular, because even a small kid, मेरी 10 साल की बेटी भी जो है वो भी सिंपल तरीके से इन सब चीज़ों को Google, Amazon कोई भी यूज़ कर सकता है. Similarly, if we can enable the citizens that it should be so simple, so user friendly, you don't require much English, you don't require digital knowledge, you don't require any IT background, even then the citizen should be able to easily access all these services. Apart from this, I'll also like to highlight that in my immediately previous assignment as Joint Secretary in Home Ministry as well as the Director of Census Operations for Punjab and Chandigarh, where I was posted for 5 years, we set up India's first census gallery and digital information kiosk. Now we all know that data is the powerhouse, and most of our decisions in the public policy and governance can be better taken if we integrate the use of evidence-based policy and data-driven governance. But you all know that census is the biggest producer of data. 150 years prior to now, 1872, we had the first census, and this year, incidentally, is the 150th year of census in India. We produce millions and billions of data on more than 70 indicators. Sometimes people feel census is just the number of population or the literate. But what all it can bring to the government departments if they can integrate the data. So we set up with our own domestic resources, not much, and how we integrated data through the digital technologies so that the data could be easily used by all the government departments, and then it enhances the impact of the policies. So we'd like to show, I have been asked very quickly, but we'd like to show a very small 5 minutes video on how the digital census gallery and information kiosk set up at Chandigarh is benefiting the state governments on multiple dimensions of data-driven governance, evidence-based policy making, and also census. We also set up India's first census GIS lab and digital census library for integrating the data into the public domain. Can we have the video, please? Awaz. Welcome to the Census Gallery and Information Kiosk, Chandigarh, set up by the Directorate of Census Operations, Punjab, Chandigarh and Haryana. This is a first of its kind project in India, set up with the purpose of disseminating and informing people about the different processes, uses and methodologies of census. This has three main components. First, census gallery. Second, census information kiosk. And third, digital learning center. Census gallery is divided into four main parts. First, census through the annals of history. Second, the processes and methodologies of census. Third, census and mapping. And fourth, census 2021, which is the first digital census. We start with the census through the annals of history. Census has a very long history. Since 1872, census is very widely used for policy formulation, implementation, monitoring, and for so many other purposes, not only by the government, but by the private sector, by the voluntary sector, research institutions, academia, and so many other stakeholders. Census was introduced in India through the Census Act 1948 by India's first Home Minister Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. Subsequently, India has conducted 8 censuses, and now we are going to have the first digital census in India. Census is multidisciplinary. It is linked to demography, economics, statistics, public administration, geography, sociology, IT, political science, and whatnot. Census has multiple branches, not only census, but it has map, data dissemination, data capture, sample registration system, and the civil registration system. The use of technology in census since beginning has been shown. It reflects how the census process used to take a lot of time earlier. However, with the digitization and application of technology, the digitization time as well as the final results have become faster and more accurate. Census is conducted in 2 phases. First phase, house listing and housing census, and the second, population enumeration. The various steps and the activities involved in both these phases are mentioned here. The administrative setup for census conducting in India has been shown here.
Maps plays a very important role in census. This wall is dedicated to census and mapping, as this census is going to be digital and mapping will play a predominant role in this census. These are the steps involved from the non-scale map which we use to collect from state authorities, and we just process it in GIS environment, and finally we create the state level geodatabase and simultaneously the national level geodatabase. This will help in preparation of digital georeferenced block maps covering entire rural and urban areas of India. This is a big transition from manual to digital mapping at the field level.
First time, 5 mobile apps in 16 languages will be used for data enumeration throughout the country and enhance efficiency of census operations. First time in the history of Indian census, there will be a digital census in India which will completely transform the census processes in the country. The digital census will encompass digital data enumeration, digital mapping, digital self-enumeration, digital management and monitoring through CMMS portal, and also digital data dissemination through Census as a Service. Census Information Kiosk is a one-stop place for all data needs. Census and its relevance has been explained, how census is helpful for various stakeholders. The population of India since 1872 has been visualized here after every census. This shows the thematic map of country, and by clicking on any state we can get the vital parameters. The population of India of different states in the post-independence time has been reflected here, and how the various states are changing in terms of population. Similarly, the number of districts from 1951 in different states has been visualized here. Similarly, when we click on the mapping portion, we can see the changes in the administrative boundaries of Punjab from 1951 onwards. This census kiosk is readable in English, Hindi and Punjabi.
Digital Learning Center consists of detailed library of census publications of India, Punjab, Chandigarh and Haryana. And
we should integrate the data which is already available from the national to the state to the district and to the village level, and if we integrate that data digitally into our existing schemes, our governance and service delivery can be delivered and improved quite drastically. Thank you.
थैंक यू वेरी मच सर। हम जब हिमाचल प्रदेश के बारे में सुनते हैं तो बस हमारे आंखों के सामने हंसी वादियाँ और बर्फीली सड़कें आ जाती है। एंड थैंक यू सो मच सर फॉर शेयरिंग दिस इंफॉर्मेशन। नाउ वी नो अबाउट द ई गवर्नेंस ऑफ हिमाचल प्रदेश एंड ऑल्सो ई विधानसभा। नेक्स्ट आई रिक्वेस्ट विप्रा बहल मैम who is from Jharkhand. Vipra Bahal ma'am is Secretary IT and E-Governance, Government of Jharkhand. I request her to say a few words. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to share my views. At the outset, I would like to just share with you that the government of Jharkhand is taking up various initiatives for e-governance and promotion of IT and IT-enabled services within various government departments and outside of the departments to various districts and right up to the panchayat. So I would just like to highlight two of the important initiatives taken by government of Jharkhand recently. One is it is a Aapki Yojana, Aapki Sarkar, Aapka Dwar. It is a program whereby the camps have been organized in a very short duration of time, say for 12th of August, this 12th of October 2022, right up to the Jharkhand Statehood Day, that is 15th of November 2022. So during those days, each and every panchayat of the state, the camps were organized. And next slide. Total 5696 camps were organized, and the total number of applications received were 55.44 lakhs, And the applications work pertains to various government schemes. It is Government of India schemes, it is Government of Jharkhand schemes, and the disposal is 53.66 lakhs, and right now only 1.76 lakhs application is under process till the last reports came in. So the disposal is 95%, and these are the 24 districts of the Jharkhand state, and it is giving the total application count, the disposed count, rejected count, and the total disposal. This is the green window is showing for all the application, and the second one is showing for the focus schemes, as in we have focused schemes are those where the government is assigned priority to those schemes as highly important for the citizens. It pertains to PDS and scholarship, etc. Next slide, please. So these are the key focus schemes which have been identified. This is Savitri Bai Phule Kishori Samriddhi Yojana, Sarvajan Pension Yojana, New Green Card Ration Scheme, Mukhyamantri Pashudhan Yojana, and Mukhyamantri Rozgar Yojana. Again, the application count and the disposal rate is shown in this slide, which is close to 88%. And next slide. Go to the previous slide. I would just like to mention, since in a very short duration I have to make this presentation, that the disposal count, apart from the disposal count, we are also tracking the satisfaction level of the citizen for every application that has been made to the government. Like we have developed a dedicated portal for the same, and in the portal, whenever any application is received, we are capturing the mobile number and other details of the applicant, and whereby through a SMS based service, the citizen is also notified of the status of the application right up to the disposal state, and the satisfaction level of the applicant is also captured, as in the feedback, whether the citizen is satisfied with the given service, whether if the scheme provides for new green ration card, whether same has been delivered to the citizen or only there has been some fraud. So we are able to track those applications and citizen satisfaction level of disposal of those applications in those camps. And this was the second edition of the program. The first edition was in 2021, and the second one was quite successful than the previous one. I would like to mention another initiative of the government of Jharkhand. Go to the next slide, please. This is Johar Pariyojana portal. This is basically the decisions which are made by the cabinet, the state cabinet. Those decisions are to be tracked through this portal, and the users of this portal is all the government departments, all the districts, and all the district agencies like directorate and all the agencies of the government. This is for just the government integration and government tracking of the decisions that have been made in the cabinet. So through this portal has been developed, and it has been launched by the Honorable CM of Jharkhand. We have developed the SOP user manual, and all the user ID passwords have been shared with all the government agencies. And as of now, the portal, the legacy data has been entered into the portal, which is around 1129 projects. Projects as in those projects whose foundation is also laid by the CM is also being tracked through this portal apart from the cabinet decision. So that is being done. And next slide. We organized a statewide online training and capacity building of the how to utilize this Johar Pariyojana portal for all the government departments and districts. And these are some of the important features of the project, as I have mentioned over here. Please close the presentation. Apart from that, I would just like to highlight that government of Jharkhand is also taking a lead in application of new and emerging technologies in the state, and 5G rollout is taking place in the state, and we are creating 5G use cases for various government applications. Apart from that, blockchain is also being deployed in many of the government projects, especially in the Department of Agriculture for seed distribution. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I express my heartfelt thanks to all the participants on the stage and off the stage. It was an amazing day in august company of you all. To conclude the day one of the conference, I invite Srimati Sujata Sonik, Additional Chief Secretary, ARONM, Government of Maharashtra. Srimati Sujata Sonik.
Thank you. So, dear friends, we have come to the end of this day. I hope all of you found the sessions enriching and enlightening. We heard so many different speakers, and I'm particularly very thankful to all the secretaries who came at the last minute and they shared their experiences. Tomorrow morning we are going to start at 10 a.m. sharp with the first session, which will be chaired by Kshatriya sir, and subsequently we will have a plenary session in which Honorable Jitendra Singh ji and our Honorable DCM are expected to join us online, offline, and then we conclude by late afternoon. I would just like to say that if you had any inconvenience today, please excuse us. We tried our best. There were some glitches, I know, in the sound system. It's always difficult to bring your material and try to sync it with the system which is already pre-existing in these halls. However, our NIC team, they did a marvelous job of putting together everything. So I thank all the team at the back end who were constantly working to make this go on seamlessly. And I wish you a very pleasant evening, and I hope to see you tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Thank you once again for being with us.